Welcome back to episode 16 of 11 Bang Gang. So I got a special surprise for you guys today. I have a pilot, a medevac pilot. So for all you combat vets that are listening, I know you have a special appreciation for that. His name's Jon King. He flew Blackhawks in Afghanistan for a couple deployments. Jon, say what's up, man.
Hey, y'all. Thanks for having me, man. I'm looking forward to the conversation tonight.
Okay, so you left the Army as a CW03. So for those who are in the military will understand what I'm about to say here. Every enlisted dude is going to have the same question I'm going to ask. What was it like being able to tell officers to fuck off and enlisted to fuck off at the same time?
The knack there is being able to do it in a way that it's kind of like a Southern woman saying bless her heart.
Yeah.
Warrants get very good at that line of statement, if that makes sense. So ideally, you don't want to ever have to do that, but there's something to be said about having that in your back pocket if needed. I only got on to 2 or 3 enlisted guys ever in my day, which is unheard of for a pilot, but I was a safety officer and unit movement officer. And there was some shit going down that I was not okay with. And I told them to do something. They didn't do it. And I got in their ass one side and down the other. And they gained a new respect for me because I'm very laid back until I'm not. And when I'm not, you know it real fucking quick. So
yeah, man, the chief warrant officers just always felt, and in the Marine Corps, I think they're a little more common in the Army than they are in the Marine Corps. We have them around, but they always just feel like unicorns. When you see one, you're like, oh shit, like what's up? But
especially with those other services, right? Because you have to be enlisted for a certain amount of time, reach a certain experience level. And that's the whole thing with the warrant is they're the tactical, technical experts, the silent professional, if you will. So they're in the background doing and keeping the consistency and knowledge up for your units where, the officers come and go because that's their role. The enlisted folks do their thing, which is more the structure and the doing. So having those people that have hit the extreme of their enlisted side and be able to still give them upper momentum, but not necessarily become a RLO, if you will, a real live officer on that aspect, that gives them that next level to continue to push towards. So I think it's a huge thing for the services to be able to have that in between or that blend. And then when you look at the Army with theirs, they have the same thing as far as what we call walk-in warrants. But then on the flip side for aviation, you can come straight off the seat from high school, college, whatever you want, and put in your packet and potentially get picked up. So you can come in like I did with 10 years experience in the military, or come in like one of the guys in my group. It was day one off the street. He didn't know anything about the military or anything, right? So in some aspects, him and I were the same because it was like one day I was Air Force, the next day I was Army.
Wow.
So I'm in the closing the sales, pushing the cart through the store, like putting stuff in the thing, and I get back to the unit and I'm like, all right, cool, where'd all these patches go? Because in the Air Force I didn't have that. I just had my solo name patch and my flight suit, so it was easy,
right?
But
I will say the Army is very patch happy of any of the branches. I mean, they love their patches, dude.
Well, it's a morale thing for sure, especially when you get into units that actually appreciate and understand that it is a morale thing a lot of times, and pride. You want to be prideful in the unit that you're working with and supporting and living and breathing.
Yeah, I will say that's one of the differences between the Army and the Marines. It's the Marines. We were all just like, we're a Marine, and it was that was it. There was no other. Now, granted, I will say that with the exception of the infantry units are very proud of the unit. But for the rest of the Marine Corps, they're just like, yeah, bro, I was a Marine, but the Army's like, the 101st, all those guys, they very unit strong, about identity. So
for sure.
Okay. So, all right, I'm going to ask one last question just to make it clear, because I don't know if some of my civilian listeners may not understand warrant officer. So do warrant officers still have to do, I know you still have to go to college, but is there a difference in how much college or no college at all?
No college required at all. That's what I'm saying. You can do what they call street to seat is the slang term for it. But yeah, you literally can walk off the street, and if your package is strong enough, you can get picked up And, there's certain elements that go into that of having a strong package if you don't have a military background per se. But, there's people out there that get senators' letters of recommendation because they know them or their dad knows them or whatever. There's multiple ways to end up in the same spot, which is kind of nice.
Right.
Makes
See,
for a bit of a melting pot.
man, I thought I knew everything about the military. I thought y'all had to have at least an associate's degree.
See, that's the thing. When I was back in 94, 95, before I graduated, when I was looking at going in the military after I went and partied with my brother one weekend at college, I realized I needed a little more structure. So, and he was 18 months older than me and was already at college, and I was a senior. So I was like, all right, I got to figure out some structure. So originally I was looking at going to the Army as a helicopter pilot. But again, rural Arkansas in the mid 90s, you don't have a ton of technology. You couldn't jump on a computer like you can now or pick up a phone and do research.
Right.
So everything I'd always kind of word of mouth was you had to have a degree. And of course, when you talk to recruiters, and not all are the same, I'll preface it as that. My brother was a recruiter for the Air Force for a good while, but they're going to tell you what they want to tell you to get you where they want you, right? So when you talk to them, they're like, oh, yeah, you need a degree, or they may not even know, but they don't want to lose you as a number. So they're going to tell you whatever they got to tell you to keep you steered in their direction. So ultimately, I tried to go, or I didn't try. I looked at the Navy first as a nuclear sub engineer because I saw that. And I was like, 4 years doing that, get out. I can go work down the road at the power plant, make $60,000 at a 24, 25 years old in rural Arkansas. That was huge money. So,
oh yeah,
I was on board with that until I talked to the guys, and they're like, yeah, you got to spend 6 months under the polar ice caps in a sub as part of this. That I was like, yep, I'm out. I'm not spending 6 months under the ice for nobody.
I'm glad you got some good advice there, man. For real.
Dude, it was one of those where I was like, as soon as they told me that, I basically checked out and went and talked to the Air Force guys and did the thing with them, and then they flipped the book open and said, pick your job. And of course, 18, I don't know shit. I had my dad sitting there with me, and he's like, I don't know. He was an Army guy for a little bit, So I'm going through the book, and I find this job. I asked the recruiter, I was like, what's this? Got a big long name to it. And he tells me, I don't know. It's a new career field, whatever. I was like, well, hell, let's go with that. Sounds cool. Command, Control, Communications, Navigation Systems Apprentice was the title. So all that meant was comm nav guy.
Oh, man.
So I did the communication navigation was what I went through tech school for, and then ultimately got to the E4, the thing you see up here, the 747. And ironically enough, when you heard me talk about not spending 6 months under the polar ice caps, I spent a week at a time for 8 12-hour shifts on that bird, either on the ground or in the air, for every third week for a week at a time for 10 years. So I ended up spending more than 6 months total in a year in a tin can in the air instead of under the ice. But I like to joke about that nowadays because the irony of it all. But yeah.
Yeah, dude, they it's funny you mentioned that's the flying command center, right?
Yep.
Thing. Okay, yeah.
Nicknamed the Doomsday Plane.
Yeah, my okay, so I don't know. I got a family member. He was in the Air Force. He just got out. That's what he worked on. He was a mechanic on those things. And
nice.
Yeah. So
if you talk to him very often, if he's still in Nebraska, up at Offutt, tell him to check out my bar and grill in Papillion, right down the road from him.
Oh no, he moved back. He moved down here to Georgia. He said, "Screw that."
Oh, I don't blame him. There's a reason I live in North Alabama.
Yeah. So I guess you went ahead and said that you joined the Air Force. You worked on that plane. So I got 2 quick questions that I ask every podcast guest. My first one is, what was your reason for joining the Air Force to begin with? You said you went to college and you were like, no, this ain't working. And then,
so growing up, I went into band. I actually still have my trumpet right here that I had in high school. I pick it up from time to time, but had a ride to college as far as scholarship, whatever, and it was looking at that as a track. But like I said, I had a older brother that's 18 months older than me, and he had already gone on to college. And so when I was a senior, I went up and visited him at college, and, we partied hard. And that's what they did all the time. And I was like, for me, I was like, I got to have something more structured. And in my brain, the military is it, gives you the stability and everything like that. So ultimately, I went that route. And, when I made that decision, as weird as it's going to sound, at 18, I said, if I do 20 years, I can retire at 38 and I can have a guaranteed house payment.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what, I will always have a house payment. So I was like, fuck it, let's do it. And so I started to go to the Air Force, and they're like, yeah, we don't do 2-year commitments. We only do 4 or better. And then when talking to the guy, he's like, yeah, if you sign up for 2 more, we'll give you another stripe and whatever. And I was like, in my brain, I'm already thinking I'm going to do 20. So why the hell not sign up for 6 right out the bat and get the extra stripes? So I did that. And then I did my first enlistment for another, whatever it was, 4, 6, I think it was.
Right.
So I was already committed to 12 under two enlistments, So I was ready to rock and roll at that point. And then the opportunity came to potentially go to the Army. And I like to joke and say they paid me more than let me fly helicopters. And again, in my brain, it was just, if I retire as an E7, I'm going to make this much. But if I go warrant, I'm almost guaranteed to retire as a W3 minimum.
Right.
That's a better house payment. That only makes sense to me. Why the fuck not? So yeah. But that's what ultimately drove me to go military anyways.
Right. Okay. So I got to back up one more, cause I got one more question. Yeah. This is the everybody gets this question. So you said your dad was in the Army for a bit. You probably knew a couple of people in the military. So when you went to boot camp, now we're all going to joke and say the Air Force, what shit, but expectation versus reality. So you had an expectation, the recruiter may have lied to you and been like, it's easy, whatever. So when you went to boot camp, how was it compared to what you thought it was going to be?
Well, the first day, at the end of the day, I was like, what in the fuck have I done? That was the only thing that came to my mind at that moment was, what in the fuck, where am I and why did I do this?
Yeah.
Because, and while I will say that there are different difficulties in each service's training, each one is designed for a specific kind of outcome, right? When you look at the Air Force, they're looking for folks to learn and focus on attention to detail.
Right.
And that, right. And being able to recognize those small little nuances that may not be correct. So a lot of that was mental aspect as much as it was physical. We did the running, the push-ups, and all of the fucking rifle drills for days and all the things like that. But when it came down to the nuances, I've got a memory I'll never forget, being in the bay, and we had the wall lockers, and of course you had a drawer at the bottom, open cabinets at the top and a drawer on the bottom. Well, the way that they do it is you have to lock your drawer every time, even if you're still sitting there, kind of deal. So if you've seen those military locks that you have to push in and then turn, so you had to keep your key on your neck, right? So most of the time, people in a hurry, they just bend down instead of taking it off and doing it. They just bend down, right? So you got people bending down. These dudes come in there yelling and screaming. You see people like fucking slam back into the wall locker because they try and jump up and the key's still in the lock. They smash their face in, and it looked like complete jackasses kind of deal. But then I got the experience of going through the warrant candidate school as well, and it was very similar in a lot of aspects to the Air Force, almost like the next level of gentleman training, I guess you'd say, because there was a lot of attention to detail and things like that in there. We had a group of instructors, or cadre, I guess you'd call them, that they believed in being a warrant, and they believed in you had to pay your dues in the training to do your thing. So I remember coming home from class one day in full service dress, and they had us out there doing flutter kicks and rolling in the dirt and the sand and the mud and the muck and everything like that. And we're in full service dress, dude. So now we get back, we're all shuffled, look like crap. And the commander at the time saw this unit come back in full service dress. They lost their mind on the cadre. They're like, you can't be doing that. Like, these guys can't afford to go out and redo their whole service dress uniform because you had them rolling in the mud,
Right.
There was other elements that went on through different training like that. But yeah, at the end of the day, the expectation was, I expected I don't know what the fuck I was expecting. Because like I said, when I first got there, my first thought was, what did I do? Where did I put myself?
I mean, I'm gonna breeze over your Air Force time just because.
I mean, 9/11 would be the biggest
Oh
claim
yeah,
to fame, I would say, in that.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And being on board the E4 when 9/11 happened, and being one of the very few, count them on one hand, maybe two, of aircraft that were up that day, and the conversations and the not knowing, but we spent 30 days up, not knowing when we're, and it was 30, 40, 50, whatever the days were, but they all started blending together. But yeah, it was like, we're on the bird, and you're either flying or you're on the bird. But
wow,
we were on alert, which is you can't leave your facility. You got to be able to. So I know I'm bouncing around a little bit, but in the Blackhawk, in the medevac, you have a 15-minute takeoff time.
mm-hmm.
And we had the same kind of deal with the E4. So if you can imagine a crew of 100 plus people from horn to takeoff and doing that shit in under 15 minutes, it's impressive to watch it happen.
Yeah.
For everybody to come together when that horn goes off, run out at full speed, get all their stuff, checks and everything, be ready to roll, is pretty impressive. But yeah, that'd be the one thing that I would carry over from the Air Force was the 9/11 time frame, and seeing and experience that. You know, we had some crews that flew over the Pentagon and saw the smoke. We had some that flew, over DC and or different areas like that. We were out in different parts of the country as well. So
Yeah.
that'd be the only thing I'd carry forward that's truly memorable, and something I don't think anybody should ever forget, regardless of politics or anything else.
Yeah.
It just shows that there's evil in the world, and when they get the ears of folks, they can do some pretty crazy stuff, which is sad.
Yeah.
But
It's
a reality.
usually the guests are my age. So, 9/11 was when we were in school. So we watched the war grow up. So you were how old when 9/11 happened?
Oh, shit. That'd have been, make me do math, 24, 25, give or
24. Take. Okay. 24, 25. So still pretty young. Yeah. You've been in how many? Yeah. So, yeah, you said you did 6 in the Air Force. So what made you decide?
10 total.
10 total. So, okay. Yeah. Because you did another enlistment on top of the 6 you originally had. Okay. Yep. So halfway through, you decide you want to go warrant officer. What was the decision? Like, what was the, I guess, motivation behind that decision?
You'll see this a lot in my story. But he came home and was like, "Hey, man, you ever thought about going to the Army and flying helicopters?" And I was like, "Yeah, ironically enough, I did when I was first looking out." And he said, "Well, they got this warrant program that you can go do, and you don't need a degree and this, that, and the other." I said, "Cool, but we're already locked in. I got another, 3 years on this 6-year commitment or whatever." And then me being me, and really kind of falling right in line with warrant officer fashion, I just need to know what the rules are, because that gives me my left and right limits, and I can work in between that, right? So at the time, they had what they called the blue to gold transition. So it was a way for airmen to transition from enlisted to officer. So the way that the reg was written, it didn't specify that you had to go, again, RLO or warrant or anything else. And it didn't specify that you had to go into blue to blue kind of deal. So I use the reg to go to the right people and say, "Hey, this right here says that I can use this program to go from enlisted to this if I'm accepted through the package." And so I got all the right paperwork, and literally he came home that day. I think I started my package the next week, and basically hand did the package. It took upwards of 6 months by the time everything was kind of complete and ready to submit. But yeah, him and I submitted our packages at the same time, and he got picked up and I didn't. So that was a gut check. I was like, ugh, this was kind of my plan. Right. I'm already moving this way. I'm exiting the Air Force at this kind mentally at this time. I'm starting to check out because I'm tracking to this. And then got picked up on my second look, because at the time you got 2 looks on a single package. Instead of having to redo the whole thing, they would look primary and secondary look, and I got picked up on my secondary look. And the only thing I could fathom is for both of us, on paper, we were pretty identical, but his time of separation was sooner than mine. So the only thing I could think is he got picked up on that first round because he had a shorter ETA than I did, and then I got picked up on the second look. But we ended up, ironically enough, getting to Rucker for training, and I showed up the day before they were starting course, and we had to go through the 6-week course because at the time the Army said, "Hey, we're not accepting anybody else's what the Army call it, BNOC or NCO training, whatever the Marines would have called that, right?" So they weren't accepting that, so you had to go 6 weeks instead of the traditional 4 for the warrant officer course. So I told him, I was like, "Hey, man, I don't know anything about the Army. I really don't feel comfortable starting this training like tomorrow. Like, I would like to, if there's another one." And they're like, "Well, there may or may not be, you know, it may be February, and this is November. It may be February before we start another class." And I was like, as long as you'll let me do it, that's fine. And they delayed the 6-week course long enough that I sit on hold, watch 4-week courses start and leave like 3 or 4 times before I started my course. And the day I started my course, they had repealed the 6-week requirement like a month before that. But since I was already scheduled for the 6-week course, they wouldn't switch me to a 4-week course. So there were guys and girls that started the same day as me. They were in the same boat as me as far as Air Force, Marine, or whatever other enlistment, that started the 4-week course, and I started the 6-week course. So they were able to get and go, and I had to do the additional 2 weeks on top of mine. I was like, "This is stupid." I was like, "All you got to do is change the dang paperwork." But they wouldn't do it.
Man.
So I ended up seeing guys, right?
Yeah. God. Okay, so you the warrant course, I'm assuming, you know, you said the cadre. Was the cadre enlisted or were they officers?
No, they were warrants.
Oh, okay. So this was, you want to join our club? Like, we're gonna use the shit out of you. That's awesome. I love it.
There's definitely a level of that. And then we had a enlisted first sergeant, for the company, and that dude, the guy we had down there, was amazing. Like, he was legit, cared about soldiers, like really wanted them to succeed, and, you know, gave even us, you know, soon to be warrants respect that we hadn't, in my eyes, truly earned yet, you know, just being cadets. But that dude could run. And the guy that we had as our leader at the time, that we fell under, he was a W3 and he loved to run. Well, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm still a bigger dude. I'm about 220, 230 on any given day at these days. And back then I was probably 210, 215. And I ran, but I didn't run like these dudes ran. And so we're a week into, we hadn't even done training yet. This is just holdover status, right? So I'm here with these holdovers from Marines, the Army, Air Force, you know, 1 or 2 of us. And so these dudes go out running every other morning, and they're running 6, 8, 12 miles. And me and this enlisted E6 Army guy, he was a heavier set dude, and we were struggling, like just trying to keep up with these guys. And they're just like, like it's nothing, right?
Man.
And at one point, he actually told me, the first sergeant again, we were on one run, and he said, "Hey, I'm going to take these guys and we're going to break off and go this way." And he brought us a short route, and they kept running. He's like, "I had to, guys. Like, very few times did I have to bow out." He said, "But my knees were smoked." He's like, "That dude can run." Because he would try and keep up with that W3, and that W3 was just a runner. He was built that way. And this first sergeant was like, he's like, "I love to run, but man, I can't keep up with him." He's like, I hate it. Like, I hate not being able to keep up with him, but that dude was just a runner, and that's what he enjoyed doing. And he would take us out on fucking. And then at Rucker, they have what they call Blue Max, which is this stupid, like, railroad ties and flat ground stepping. So it's not like you're walking stairs. There's 3 or 4 feet and then another stair, and then it may be 6 feet, it may be 2 feet, it may be 8 feet, you know, so it varies. There isn't like a rhythm that you can get into while you're trying to get up this fucking thing. And it was always after the 6, 8, 10 mile run, we're going to finish with Blue Max. And it's like, you got nothing left, and you still got to climb this fucking mountain thing in front of you. Heck
yeah. Man, my original goal in the military was I had told my parents before I joined, I said, I'm going to fly airplanes for the Marine Corps. and then I'm gonna work for Delta after I retire at 37 because I joined when I was 17, and then I'm going to retire again, and then I'm gonna take care of you guys. And then when I found out I had to go to college, I was like, fuck this, because I was like barely passing the high school. But when I went to work on, and you might know what this is as a pilot, or you might not. When I went into the wing, I picked up a very special job called non-destructive testing. And so I was an NDI guy. And so, you know, I'm sure you've seen the dudes fail inspections on aircraft and stuff like that. So, but when I went down to Pensacola the second time, there were Blue Angels, you know, that's where the Blue Angels home is. So they're flying every day. And I called my wife, and I remember calling her because I only had like 2 or 3 years left on the contract. And I was like, I'm going to go F-18 pilot. And she was like, really? And I was like, yeah, dude, I got to do it, you know? And I was like, I got to fly. I still want to get my pilot's license, man. Like I want to fly. I fly simulators. Like I love it. But you know, anyways, but I just remember, I remember thinking about it, and I remember thinking about all the officers I had met my entire career. At that point, I had been in like 6-7 years, and I remember thinking, I'm not a fucking runner. And every officer I know runs like fucking marathons. Like I was like, I can't do it. Like I won't fit in. Like
right.
But I actually had quite a few officers that approached me with a MECEP package, and they were like, please do this. And I'm like, they were like, you have the personality to be an officer. And I'm like, guys, I'm done, man. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. And, you know, but my biggest reason that I never went was because I couldn't control my job. Now you obviously you went to the warrant program, like, but for the Marine Corps, for regular commissioned officers, it's needs of the Marine Corps. So the top 3 tiers, you might know this, however they finish out in OCS, they get their job picks. And the problem is like, you never know whether you're going to fall into the job pick. And it's just,
Army is the same way with the helicopters, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah. So when I went through, you know, you don't get an aircraft selection until you're through your regular training. So for us, we started out in the TH-67s.
Okay.
Bell 20 or 406, 206, whatever it is. My memory sucks. But anyways, started out in that. So you do that, and based on that and how well you do in that training and how well you do on your PT test and all that, they come up with this cumulative score, and they rack and stack it. And then from there they go top down, and they basically have they had a whiteboard on the wall that had UH-60s 15, Kiowas 14, Chinooks 8, Apaches 24. And so top of the class, pick your aircraft, and it goes all the way down. And if your aircraft's gone, it's gone. You got to pick something else.
So where did you finish out? Or hold on, but I guess I'm going to ask this question first. What did you originally want to fly?
So I originally was going towards the Chinook because the environment and the people that I'd been told were Chinook folks were all supposedly laid back and chill and everything like that. And that's me. Like, I'm not a get excited guy, or like it takes a lot to spin me up. So that was kind of the mentality I had. And we went through, and what the OML you're listing, right? And before you go into selection, you're kind of bullshitting with all the people in your class about what aircraft you want. You've been talking about it since you started walks, right? And so weird enough, our class was the only one that I've ever known of that broke out where everybody had the amount of aircraft for the people that wanted them.
Oh, wow.
So we had like 8 Kiowa guys, 8 Kiowas were available, 16 black or Chinooks, whatever, right? So it broke out where it was perfect. Everybody was going to be happy. Well, they also have people that fall back into classes. So we had a dude that fell back into our class for selection purposes because he missed the other one for whatever reason. So I was kind of talking to him, and he's like, yeah, I could take the Blackhawks, you know, that's kind of where I'm leaning. He's like, I've thought about Chinooks, but I'm really thinking the Blackhawks and whatever. So they're going through, and everything's hunky-dory. I'm like, cool, that person, they picked theirs, and, you know, so-and-so picked the Chinook. I knew that was coming, and then I'm waiting on my name to be called because you don't know where you fall in the OML as far as that went. So this dude's name gets called, and this dude picks the Chinook. Even though he'd been telling me the whole fucking time he was going to pick Blackhawks, he picked Chinook. And I was like, all right, well, that sucks. There was still like, that was the last one, right? The very next name that gets called is fucking mine.
Did you have a backup though? Did you think about it? Like ahead of time? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So for me, it was going to be the Blackhawk.
Okay.
That was my guaranteed like fallback.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just one of those where when he said it, I could have burned holes through him. You know, I was like, this motherfucker, dude. Because my buddy that I crossed from the Army, like he fell back a class, so he got a different selection. And we were both going to he was actually wanting Apaches or something like that. And when he got through and got his selection, I don't remember if it was none available or whatever, but he ended up picking Chinook. And he went Chinooks. So I was like, you ended up with fucking what I wanted, you know, and but anyways,
was this your
Blackhawks
was this your buddy I was talking to on the Facebook page that he wrote a book?
No, that's another dude. That's my good friend Emilio. Okay. He's a great fucking dude. I'll talk about him here in a minute, but we get through selection and, you know, got the Blackhawks, made it through the training and everything like that. And it was a blast. I mean, hard, just mentally and just emotionally, and the effort that you have to put in, because when people think about A-type personalities and, you know, when you talk about top of the class, we're not talking like your generic high school, college folks. I'm talking take the 1% of those people and put those 1% of, say, 10 classes, take the 1% across the top of those, put them in a class, and now figure out where the fuck you stand and try and be in the 1% to be standing out, right? So you're talking about, oh, I'm going to go to class 30 minutes early because I want to be there, you know, and you show up 30 minutes early and the whole fuck class is full. And you're like, what the fuck? Like I thought I was going to be early, and everybody else thought the same damn thing, and they showed up sooner, you know? So you're like, fuck. So it's always that, competitiveness, but it's done within, you're all trying to help each other out too. You know, you're studying together, you're trying not to look like a fool because when you're going through training, they'll blatantly ask you, stand up, tell me this daily question or whatever. Well, you might have 30 questions. I struggle to remember that shit. So I'll never forget being in initial training, and I had they call them stick buddies, right? Somebody you go through training with. And this motherfucker, dude, great dude, about as bright as a box of rocks. And he would stand up when he would get called on and babble, and just, they would call on me and say, help your stick buddy out. I stood up one time. I said, man, he's got me so fucking lost. I don't even know what the question was. So let's try again. Cause he just rambled.
That's awesome. Man.
But yeah, so made it through that. Obviously got the Blackhawks and got stationed at Fort Campbell. And me being me, at that point, I wanted to do something. When I walked away, I knew I'd done something, right? I'd lived through 9/11, done all that through the Air Force. And I wanted to know when I walked away from the military that I'd actually be able to hold my head and say, yep, I did that. And so when you get stationed, they station you at the brigade level. And for your non-military folks, that'd be like looking at my shelf and going, all right, we're going to start here and then trickle it down. And this is your place that you actually work. But they started me here, and they had me directed to go to the air assault unit, because that's where all the new pilots went, because you got a lot of repetitions, a lot of flight hours, and a lot of pilots. So, you know, you're kind of together. I fought with a lieutenant for a solid 3 or 4 hours until he finally said, you know what, fuck it. I'll send you to the brigade, the GSAB battalion, I'm sorry, and they can figure out. They may put you VIP, they may put you something else, but this best I can do. I'm not going to send a brand new pilot to the medevac. The learning curve is just too steep for the mission set. So I get to that battalion, and I get there, and this dude's like, I'm not sending you to the medevac. I said, well, come on. I was like, I made it this far. Like, you got to give me that credit. And kept working on him. So I finally got fed up and sent me to the medevac. So here I show up at the medevac. They probably ain't seen a brand new W1 in 3 or 4 years. And so they were getting off one of their harder deployments, late 08, 09, early 09. And battle hardened, and here I come fresh eyed and whirly tailed, ready to go, and there's nobody in the hangar because they haven't returned off R&R. Like they haven't even finished returning from deployment yet fully. And so I walk into a completely empty hangar. I have one dude walk by and tell me to find a fucking fridge because I was going to be what they call the fridge bitch. And when you're going through it, you don't process it as well. Of why the hell I just got done learning to fly a multi-million-dollar aircraft, and now you want me to be responsible for a fridge? That doesn't make sense. But when you think about it, if you can't be responsible and obtain or maintain a operational fridge fund, how can I expect you to be trusted with a multi-million-dollar asset that you have to have a level of attention to detail and level of just awareness that easy way to figure out whether you got it or not?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you man a basic fridge fund and make sure that it's stocked, it's ready, it's got stuff that people want and all the things. And the second part of that is you're at the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah.
You know, you're sweeping floors, you're fucking doing all the things, even as a warrant, you know? And so got there finally, you know, brand new W1, and then probably 6-8 months later we had a few more trickle in, and right after that we deployed in 10. And then I hadn't been in country 3 or 4 months and got orders to somewhere else even before I got back. And I just signed paperwork on my house to buy it. And I was like, dude, somebody's got to help me out here. I was like, I can't dump this house. I literally signed for it a week ago, right? We're deployed and I'm signing for this thing. And so there was another W-2 that was same name, same last name, same rank, same time in service, the whole gamut. And so we got him to flip our orders. And he ended up going to Rucker to go do instructor pilot course. And I stayed at Campbell at the medevac. And so I do my second deployment with them and then run through that. And I'm like, all right, cool. I'm good. Let me go do something else now. I know that I can walk away, hold my head high. And I had orders again. And then the brigade or battalion senior warrant came down and basically got my orders canceled because I was one of their most senior medevac pilots that they had. So he didn't want to turn me loose. So I ended up going on a third deployment with them. And I told my wife on that one, you know, the first one, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
The second one, you've already experienced it once. So now you know what fear looks like. You know what the possibilities are and what you're actually getting into. And I was like, all right, I'm good with that. But then when the third one came, I was like, dude, there's only so many times you can roll this fucking dice and not end up on the bad side of this, you know? So I told my wife at one point, I was like, I've never not wanted to go on a deployment. I said, but I don't want to do this. I said, I just don't have that warm and fuzzy that I'm going to make it without a scratch, you know, kind of deal. And ended up going, you know, and doing our thing and whatever, but came home third time and got orders. But this time I had made a deal with the career people that assign you where you're going and everything, where I had already tracked safety. So as a warrant in the Army and aviation, you can track one of 4 areas: safety, tactical, maintenance, or instructor. So I'd already tracked safety, but I'd done a deal that I was going to be able to go be an instructor at my new unit. So I was going to pick up the instructor course on the way up. So I'd be dual tracked and be able to basically be multi-hatted if need be at the company. So it's going to be a win-win for everybody. And so I get down to the training and I'm 1 week in, and they'd already had us sign some waivers that we had to submit for. Everything from not flying a traditional alpha model, like the base model in so many days and other things. And they're like, don't worry about it. There's hardly ever anybody that gets rejected for whatever. These are just common things. Yeah. Until it comes to me and I'm the motherfucker they want to make an example of.
You were the one.
And so they declined my waiver for not flying the alpha model in 180 days or 90 days, whatever it was, because I was a Mike model guy at that point. Like, so for the civilian folks, it's like driving a base model car all the way to your top of the line, fully loaded, most new thing out there, right? So I was going backwards in a sense. And so they were like, yep, we're not doing that anymore. We have to take time to get you spun back up in the aircraft and all these things. We're tired of that. So I called the mic unit next door and said, hey, this is a scenario. This is where I'm at. I've already passed the emergency procedure stuff. I've done my height, weight. I've done my PT test, everything. And they're like, yeah, dude, you're too easy, man. You've already passed the hard stuff. Come over next week. We start class on Tuesday. Just call branch and have them switch the code. Thinking everything's going to be great. I'm not actually going to miss out on the instructor pilot. I call the branch guy and he's like, nope, we're not doing that anymore. That was something that was done under my previous person and we're not dual tracking anymore. You're going to return to Campbell and then PCS to Fort Drum, because that was where my follow-on was. That was the deal I made the lady was, I will do drum. Nobody wants to do drum. Right. I will do drum, but I want an instructor pilot course en route. I was like, this is a give me. You give me, I give you type deal. And he's like, no, you're going to drum. I said, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not the guy that's going to tell you that if you don't do something, I'll do something. I said, if you're not going to do this switch, I said, I'm going to come home and I'm going to retire. And at this point, I was like 19 years, 4 months, 5 months, whatever it is. So not past the point of actually being able to do it. I was just running my mouth at that point because I was pissed off at the world. And told him, I was like, here's the deal. When I get back to Campbell tomorrow, I'm going to start my retirement paperwork. And I said, there's a non-concur and a concur on that form from your position. I said, I just need to know which step I'm going to take next if you go non-concur, because my next call is going to be to your boss, who happens to be my former company commander that I was in the medevac with for fucking X number of years. And you're going to explain to him why you're not letting a 20-year veteran retire whenever they're ready. And I don't think he believed me, because I got back that Friday. Monday, I started hand walking my packet through, and by the following Friday, I'd submitted my retirement paperwork. And when I went to the division to drop it off, I actually called and said, hey, I'm at the division. I'm dropping off my retirement paperwork. He said, well, when I see it, I'll rescind your orders. Before I got back to the hangar from across the base, I got there and there was an email waiting on me that had canceled my orders to drum. Wow. And I was like, this could have been so much easier. And so, like, I would have gone to drum as an instructor pilot, probably done another, because my plan was to do 4 to 6 there, whatever kind of was mandated. 4 was the original kind of deal, but the follow-on to that was going to be down at Rucker. So I could do instructor pilot course down there, retire as a DAC, live out my life in South Alabama doing flight training.
Right.
But him doing his thing flipped that on its head, and I did. I came home, and it was probably a month total, but I submitted all my shit and retired. Damn. And ended up walking away when it was all said and done. It was 20 years, 6 months.
Man.
By the time it was all said and done, but come to find out, he had done that to probably 11 or 13 different individuals in our warrant community. That it was bad enough he didn't come back to the blackhawk community when he was done with that assignment.
Oh, I bet. He
actually went fixed wing after that, just so he didn't have to come back to all the guys and girls that he had done dirty, at the end of the day. And man. So, yeah, as ironic as it all is, it ended up working out. I wouldn't change anything at this point from where I am today. I did my time. I'm very proud of what I did and the lives that I affected over the 3 deployments. I estimate roughly 300 missions total, everything from a stub toe up. I was showing one guy some pictures. We had I don't really know what you'd call him. He's a videographer, photographer, storyteller, writer. Like, he just kind of has this whole gamut of things.
Combat camera?
He does that too, but he's an independent guy.
Oh,
so
okay.
Dave Bowering's his name. He's a Canadian, phenomenal guy. And we found out later that he paid his own way. Like, he'd actually second mortgage on his house to finance his trips over there.
No shit.
But he got all the permissions and paperwork to be able to embed with us at the medevac. So we would go out on missions, and this dude would be in the back. Mm-hmm. And the goal was for him to get video. I mean, that's one of his pictures right there behind me.
Sick photo.
Yeah, he does phenomenal work. So definitely check him out. Okay. Anybody that's out there looking for some badass photography and stuff. I will say, when you look at the Afghanistan stuff, there's going to be some gore in there, but it's real life stuff that we all live through, right? So,
what was his name again?
Dave Bowery.
Dave Bowery.
DRB Imagery is what you can Google.
Okay.
And I can send you a text later for that. But the dude put the life and the mission before the photography and before the videos and things like that. There's one picture in there where I think it was a GoPro that caught it, but he's sitting there with a fucking IV bag in his mouth while he's doing CPR not CPR, but doing stuff with the patient.
Yeah.
While the medic is doing something else, like stopping another bleeding hole or whatever. And so times where he could have picked that camera up and got that $1 million shot, he was more of a crew member than anything, you know. So when the horn would go off for what we call Cat Alpha's life, limb, or eyesight deals, he would jump in the gator and be driving the crews out to the birds to make them allow them to get out faster. So the crew chiefs would be able to throw their gear in the back of the gator, and he'd already be on it and ready to take them to the bird to get it spun up faster. Just little, what most people consider small nuanced things that ended up being huge.
Yeah.
On the mission side of the house.
Yeah.
And so I've got utmost respect for that dude. And he did a cool ass video where he's friends with Five Finger Death Punch.
Oh, sick.
Because I call it a previous life, he back in like the 70s and 80s, he followed rockers around and took their concert pictures and stuff. You know, all the stuff that you see now where any artist out there has got different pictures, videos, and all that stuff. That's what he did. So he would follow these bands around all over on tour, taking badass pictures of them.
Wow.
As part of what he did for a living. So he's got a very diverse background and story just within himself. But
man, that's
having him there. He was there for 2 different deployments, and some of the stuff that we went through for somebody that's not there.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know the best way to put it, but not there because he has to be there. He's there because he wants to be there and tell the story. He's had all kinds of offers for people to buy his videos and do their own documentaries or do their own movies and things like that. And he won't turn it loose because for him, it's not about the money. It's about making sure that the story is told appropriately and not like bastardized, for lack of better words. Right. And I'll use that's my terms of it all. But yeah, so
man, that's fucking badass. Okay, well, I got to back up. So okay, yeah. I got to back up. So now we got the overview. So I got to ask a couple questions, and then I'm gonna get into a couple things. First of all, I never asked you this. Where'd you grow up at?
Arkansas.
Okay, so you grew up in Arkansas. So you get deployed to Afghanistan the first time. You said you went there 3 times. Okay, so my question is, when you get to Afghanistan, what's your first impressions of Afghanistan?
It's going to shock you, but wow, this is beautiful.
Yeah. No, dude, thank you for, yeah.
Like some of the places that I saw and flew over, I was like, and it's weird because you don't know it at the time. You're just focused on the war. Back in the 50s, that place was a fucking like celebrity hotbed. Like that's where celebrities went to vacation, was over in these mountains and in these amazing cities and things like that.
Yeah.
And to see it, you know, fast forward to 50, 60 years later, and it's like,
yeah, it's pretty depressing.
Still see the beauty underneath, you know, but then you see the other oppression and all the other things that go with it, and you see the sadness in the side of that. But
yeah, really a beautiful country, man. Like me and a bunch of guests have actually said, dude, like if they could get their shit together and we could go back and like travel, you know what I'm saying? Like hike.
Oh yeah.
There's some beautiful place. That is an incredible country. Cause you know, they have everything from down in the Helmand all the way up into the Hindu Kush. I mean, it's like I tell people,
and I've covered it all.
Always look like this behind me, which actually this was one of our medivacs. I took this photo from the turret, one of our guys. Yeah, that one was
very cool.
I think Justin Graves, his episode, he got shot in the hip But
Yeah.
anyway, okay. So
what year was that picture taken, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh yeah,
In
no.
Iraq or Afghanistan?
Okay, so it was Afghanistan.
Okay.
And one of the questions, so for those of you listening that don't have my Facebook page, I said, hey, I got a medevac pilot on, so all you crayon eating idiots come up with some good questions. So one of the questions was asked was the guy that was on this medevac helicopter behind me. He said, were you on the 14th of November, 2011, flying near Shergazi or it would have been near. It would have been out of. You would have had to have flown out of Edinburgh or near Leatherneck, something like that, or Bastion. Yeah, somewhere in that area.
So that would have either been. It's very possible because I was there 10, 11, 12, 13, and 15. I was over here writing the years down so I could and write that date down because I don't have any of my flags with me. But one of the things I did was I would fly a flag and then I would write every person that we picked up.
No shit.
And the date on the flag. So I've got, some flags were flown where we picked up U.S. service members. So, and the same flag was flown when we picked up the bad guys, when we picked up Afghanis, when we picked up the Afghan forces. So it lists on there all the different missions that I had. And so I can check a few of them and see that date. I can check an old logbook and see, because during that time, I kept a pretty extensive logbook.
Yeah.
But if it was 101st, it's very likely one of us, because I was out in that area when you talk about Bastion, I want to say it was Ramrod or
Edinburgh.
There was another one out that way that was close to Bastion, but not quite. Then you had up in the northwest, we ended up doing another fob up there, Delaram. Delaram 2.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I actually opened that one, and you'll love this as a Marine, and all your Marine friends will love this. And in true warrant officer fashion, right? We show up, they've got a concrete pad and talcum powder around it. And I wish I had it handy to pull up, but I've got a picture because one of the few times I flew in the Blackhawk in the back was on this. And so it's a huge concrete pad, right? You're thinking easy. Man, we get 70, 80 foot up and fucking dust just envelops us.
Brown out. Yeah.
From 70, 80 feet up.
Wow.
Like it's one thing when you expect it out in the desert, right? But when you're looking at a big ass concrete pad, and so the first one went down and we were on the second bird. And of course, that's what ultimately caused more kick up for us. But there's a hole in the window. It might have been a quarter size where I took a picture, and all you can see is the little hole, and there's like a blade of a Blackhawk, and that's it. The rest is all dust.
Man.
And I'm sitting in the back going, man, I hope y'all fucking land this. Man, I hope y'all fucking land this. And so they ended up doing a go around because at that height they couldn't see shit, and they're like, we're not risking it. We don't know what's down there. So we circle around, and even the second go around, when they were already landed, the dust fairly settled, we go in, we start kicking the shit up at 25, 30 feet again. And I was just like, that's when it gives you a new respect for the crew in the back, of how helpless you are or out of control you are in that scenario. But we ended up landing, whatever, get out of the birds, and we get there and they've got a tent set up for the medevac because we're forward staging, essentially starting a new fob for us anyways. So we got to be on duty 24/7 when we're out at these places, upwards of 3 weeks at a time. So any feature comfort that we can get, we want to have.
Yeah.
Because as you already know, every little bit of morale boost that you can get in an environment like that, you want to try and do.
Oh yeah.
So like you heard me talk about earlier, the chicken coop for my buddy, same deal over there. I got with the CBs, got a bunch of lumber brought over, and I started building a deck on the front of the little tent that we had, and pulled over, cover over it, and everything, so we could have like a smoking area, a little smoke deck. Man, this Marine he's an E9, and I always get it jacked up, so I always say E9. But he come up, and he was the senior listed for the FOB. He fucking come unglued when he saw the deck out front, and basically told me that I had to tear it down before the afternoon, or he was bringing a troop of Marines to come down there and tear it apart, because he wasn't going to have that kind of luxury on his FOB.
Get the fuck out of here.
And so, me being a W2, you know, I'm looking to the W3 that I'm with, and the W3, basically, this guy had a knack of really being able to piss people off when he wanted to. He would never raise his voice, but the way that he could talk would make you feel about this big, or make you feel like you were a complete, like, dummy type deal. So he goes to this E9, and they're going back and forth, and me as a W2, I'm just sitting there watching at this point, like eating my popcorn. Like,
Yeah.
get it,
Get
you know? Yeah, get it. And so the E9 gets pissed off and leaves, and I don't know, it was probably an hour or two later, a truck rolls back up again, and the E9 gets out of the passenger seat, and the 06 gets out of the driver's seat.
Oh, shit.
And it's the FOB commander.
Yeah.
And so he's coming up, and he's talking to us or whatnot, and the first sergeant or whatever, I would call him,
It's probably a sergeant major, or
well, he was a gun. Oh, a senior. What's the highest enlisted in the Marines?
sergeant
Gunny?
major.
Sergeant major. There you go.
Yeah.
So he's standing there at the door, and he's running his mouth from the door, you know, 20 feet behind the 06 that's now talking to the W3 and I. And so the W3 starts giving him a little lip back, and the colonel's like, "That's enough. You shut up." And he's like, "You stop antagonizing him." Talking to the W3.
God.
And he's like, "Here's the deal." And he's like, "I know what y'all are doing. I see what you're doing. I don't have an issue with it. That said, don't go elaborate. Like, just do whatever the base is you need, and then stay the fuck away from my sergeant major, you know, what type deal. Yeah, like, y'all don't cross paths anymore."
Yeah.
And so he told that United to get in the fucking truck and not come out until he got done. So the 06 and the W3 talked, and when it was all said and done, we got to keep our deck, because the 06 knew. He's like, these guys are the medevac guys.
Yeah.
They're the ones that are going out there, as we would say, unarmed and unafraid.
Mm-hmm.
And for the service members that are out there, boots on the ground, walking the ground, and living that, in my brain, one of the reasons they're able to do that is because they know that they will always have a way out.
Yeah.
There will always be somebody there to come get them. And for me, as a medevac pilot, that was my thing. Was I wanted everybody that engaged with us to know that we were coming. Like, if you needed us, we were coming. And I will say that our medevac across the 101st for, I don't remember if it was the second or third deployment or whatever it was, but our average was about 7.5 minutes for alert to take off for Cat Alphas.
Wow.
And like I said, we got 15 minutes. So that average means it could be 2:00 in the morning, dead ass asleep, horn goes off, and we're still out and off the ground in 7.5 minutes on average. And you know, I'm proud of that statistic. I mean, that's when seconds matter. Minutes make a huge fucking difference, you know, and that's why they have the golden hour and the central rings of coverage, you know. So you got 15 minutes to get up, 20 minutes out, 5 minutes on the ground, 20 minutes back kind of deal, and 5 minutes to drop them. So it was all within the hour.
Yeah.
But
yeah, the for those of you, you know, all my combat Marines or any combat guys listening, you know that, you know, you talk about a double amputee IED strike, you know, that guy loses blood. You've got 90 seconds with both femoral arteries before we put tourniquets on. Now that dude's in critical condition. These medevac pilots, and I just want to extend I was told by quite a few guys to tell you thank you and tell all your buddies, thanks, dude. Like, you saved, I don't even know, man. Like, I don't even have a number, you know, but some of my good friends, I had to do that. When I found out you were a medevac pilot, I was like, fucking put him on the schedule, dog. Like, we got to get this guy. Hell yeah. So, okay. So,
I've got it. Well, before we move on,
right.
one, thank you for that. That means the world, man. And the Dwyer on my first deployment out in Helmand area,
Marja,
right?
Out Dwyer.
I got a flag from the casualty folks, one of the Marine casualty folks. Give me a flag, and I flew that flag on every combat mission that I ever went on.
Hell
I
yeah.
had it in my dash. I've got it signed by 2 living Medal of Honor winners. I got it signed by Toby Keith while he was in theater on my first deployment. I got it signed by Robin Williams on my second deployment.
Oh, hell yeah.
Out at a forward operating base. And then I've had a mess of HBO comedians that came through when I was in Afghanistan. I had them sign it. Had my last crew sign it. I had Lainey Wilson on a concert that I went to. That was a fun story. Me and my wife drove 8 hours on a random maybe what if kind of deal. She had supposedly won backstage tickets. And we didn't have any confirmation. We didn't have tickets or anything, but we're like, fuck it. Let's drive up there, see if it's real, you know? So we show up and it was real. Like we got backstage to the Hardy concert. And while we're back there, I see this dude sitting on the stairs and I was like, I recognize him. Why the fuck did I recognize him? And I looked at him again. I was like, Talladega. We go to Talladega twice a year. Well, Hardy was the concert, the Talladega before this. So we, my wife and I love Halloween. Well, we got some of those 12-foot skeletons. We bring them to the Talladega with us and set them up in front of our camper. Well, I got a wild hair, and I said, well, I'm going to take one of these bitches to the concert. So 4 of us snatched him up, put him on the wagon, and walked him down to the backside of the crowd at the concert and had a big Hardy shirt on and all sorts of stuff. And they saw that. So the next morning, Hardy's crew came by our campsite. They're like, we got to meet these motherfuckers that bring a 12-foot skeleton to the concert. Like, we got to meet these kind of people.
Yeah.
So that dude I was talking about or referencing was his guitar tuner.
No,
he had come with that crew that morning, and him and I slammed a beer real quick before they had to go on down the road or whatever. So when I saw him, I said, hey, man, remember me? And he said, oh, yeah. So we got the bullshit or whatever. And I asked him, I said, hey, man, I've got my flag, and we're going to be right on the front of the stage, you know, with this whole ticket thing. And I said, I'd love to be able to get Hardy to sign it, you know, or whatever. He said, well, I don't know what I could do, but I'll see. I'll let him know. So what ended up happening is I got Lainey Wilson to sign it right there on stage in the middle of her concert. And she gave me kind of a funny look because some people get spun up about signing the flag or whatever. And to me, I'm like, fuck you.
Yeah.
I'm the one that wore it, carry it and take pride in it, you know. But anyways, so Hardy actually took it, and on one of his songs, he actually had it because it fit to the song, and he had it like over his shoulders, holding it up like this as he was singing, and then kind of wrapped it back and tossed it back to me and gave me a nod thing. And I got a badass video of that I'll send you in text just so you can see it. But that was a pretty cool moment in that whole thing. But I digress on all that shit to get back to where we originally were with that. But yeah, the flag had flown every mission that I've been on, and it all stemmed from that one Marine hooking me up with the flag. And like I said, I've got. I hate to say it, but I've lost count of how many Marines that I picked up over especially on that first deployment.
Yeah.
You know, that was Marine hot central area.
Yeah.
For where we were at, and you know, what was it? Second deployment when we got into Dwyer, out in the middle of that was more Army focused.
Yeah.
But them poor bastards, man, on that one, it was like every time not Dwyer, Wilson.
Oh, well,
was the one I was was the other one that I was just mentioning, where the Army guys were going out, and it was like as soon as they were going out the gate, they were getting blown up.
Man.
Like, and not like we're missing an arm or a hand, or no, we're talking almost every time they went out, they were getting a triple or quad amputee out of that deal, just because it was so like dynamic. And so the higher ups made the decision like, hey, yeah, they're within the ring, but they're getting fucked up bad enough. We got to have closer access.
Yeah.
Like we can't spend that 15 minutes to fly there. We need to get there in like 2,
Yeah.
if possible. So that's why we ended up going to Wilson and opening that one up.
Wow.
But that one was a gnarly one, man. We couldn't keep our medics there for a week at a time. Normally,
Man.
like I said, they go out for like 3 weeks at a time somewhere. Out there, they were doing like a week, and we'd have to get them back. And
Man.
I think probably 3 or 4 of the medics that I was with on that deployment ended up getting out after that, and they were mentally exhausted, for lack of better words, based on all the trauma and basically, lack of better words, destruction that they saw and dealt with during those missions.
Okay, so some specific questions about Afghanistan. I had a couple, but the people that I talked to basically mirrored a lot of my own questions. So, you know, when we as grunts learn to talk to helicopters, you know, you obviously know what the 9 line is, right? So you know that in the book, in the back of every Write in the Rain book, there's this 9 line, and we had to memorize it as an infantry dude. Like if we didn't have it memorized, they would haze the shit out of us. Like you better know that, like your life depends on it, because it does.
Because it does, yeah.
So my question to you is, it was funny because going to Afghanistan, you know, you have all these 9 lines, CAS, you know, for calling in air support and stuff like that. But when you really get on the line, on the horn with a pilot, they're just like, what's up, dude? What do you need? So my question to you is like, what approach did you take? Because they told us, like, here's what they told us. When you call in a CAS evac, the only things we need is we need to know how many patients, what is their category, and I'm going to butcher this and the guys are going to kill me, but like, what was like the urgent, you know, what type of casualty, and then like the direction, like give us a general direction to get us going, to get us off the ground, and you can give us a 10-digit grid, you know, a couple minutes in, you know what I'm saying? And so like, what was kind of your experience in like talking to the guys on the ground, and you know, like what did you need to say, let's get this rocking?
So each deployment changed, and while the 9 line didn't change, the way that you were able to get off the ground changed. So when I talked about it being a Dwyer and things like that, yes, you get a full 9 line, but if I didn't have all those details, I didn't care.
Right.
All I cared about was being able to get the grid location, the number of patients in the category, and then the comps. Those are the 3 things that I truly needed to be successful.
Yeah.
So as I moved through, when you're talking about what am I going to get off the ground with, if you give me those 3 things, I'm rocking and rolling and headed your way. When you talk about talking on the ground and communicating with them once we got close enough, then it was either, and a lot of pilots don't do this, but being a former radar operator, you had a short and a long call. You know, if you hadn't made connection yet, you did what was considered a long call. So it'd be your name twice and then their name type deal, or whatever. I probably got that back. Anyways, you get my point. And the intent there is to make that communication connection. After that, I just need you to confirm smoke, signal, whatever it is that I'm going to.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, you got a lot of other shit to worry about.
Yeah.
It's my job to get on the ground. Your job to get the fuck on the aircraft so we can get home. So when it came to that, it was common language. Let's talk. Give me situational, sit rep, any information that you can provide to make it easier for me to make a decision on how I'm coming in, where I'm landing, where the patient's at, and all that. So initially, you need that starting information, but beyond that, it becomes a conversation that's certain.
Yeah. So for those of civilian listeners, when he said the smoke, and I'm just going to cover this for people who don't know, my military guys should know this. So and I think we learned this in Vietnam, John, and I'm not sure when we learned it, but it was basically the way we protect our pilots is when we drop a smoke. So let's say that we're calling in a CASEVAC, we got the bird on the way. When he says, "Hey, I'm in your area," I'll say the signal is smoke, and the pilot will tell you what color smoke he sees, and then you will confirm that that is the color smoke, so that the enemy doesn't bring that. Because you know, if you start popping smoke, the enemy throws white smoke, the pilot says, "Yeah, I see white smoke," and then all of a sudden he comes in and lands, and that could be an ambush.
Oh, absolutely. And that was the thing that we had to worry about, is because they would do that. And so when we were about 60 seconds out, we'd say confirm smoke or pop smoke. You'd throw it. Then we confirm, all right, we got eyes on green, yellow, purple, whatever. And then you say, yep, confirm. And then we rock and roll. We know where we're going. I've had some missions where sitting as a pilot, not a pilot in command, so you're flying the aircraft, they're making all the decisions kind of deal. Well, we come in and landed where he was on the controls. We're looking around, we can't see the patient anywhere. And then all of a sudden the crew chief's like, fuck, I see him. And they're over on the other side of a wadi in a completely another field. So he fucking pops it up, jams over, slams it down, and he goes, boys, that's what you call a false insertion. Fucks the enemy all up. Like,
that's awesome.
That's one way to cover a mistake.
Yeah, no shit. I remember, I'll never forget in training. I want to say it was a 46. We were in between two huge berms, and this was when I was like a junior lance corporal. And I'll never forget this for as long as I live. Actually, it wasn't a 46, it was a 53, I think. Yeah, it was a 53. So as a pilot, you know what an IR buzzsaw is. So for those of you who don't know, this is where you take a chem light, you tie it to a piece of 550 cord, and you spin it really fast. So remember, as a kid, you spin something that glows, it looks like a circle. So from the sky, this is a huge thing. And at night, this was a huge thing. But I think the 53, he overshot the landing. And so like as the 53 comes in, you could hear, he was so low that when he comes over, you heard the rotors just sound like they were groaning. They were like, and he nailed that landing. But I'm telling you, I thought he was going to overshoot us. He probably should have went around, but that pilot pulled that bird back. It was awesome, man. It was awesome.
We had one, it was me and a captain, and what was he, a cycle ahead of me or something like that, as far as experience, a newer PC. I'll say that both of us could fly the hell out of the aircraft. But we're hauling ass to the POI, and we're coming across, and if you're familiar with the area, there was two hills that look like feminine body parts, right?
They look like tits.
Yeah, there you go. So I didn't know how far I could go with that.
Nah,
so we're coming across, and we're hauling ass, and the GPS is telling us that it's further. So we're not expecting this bitch to be right on the other side of the hills. So we come across that bitch, and we have to do a whoa boy where we just almost nose it up and then get it slammed on the ground. And I looked at him, and he looked at me, and I said, I almost called for a go-around on that one. He said, man, I did too. I didn't know if we were going to make that, because we did. I mean, you heard the low rotor click for just a second when that alarm goes off, because you put so much wind against it that it slows your rotor system. Yeah. That's not a good thing when you're fucking 20 feet above the ground. Warning going off. Fuck, get it on the ground. Got it down and looked at each other, and I was like, fuck.
Oh, man.
Because that's all you can do at that moment. It's like, yep, we survived. We meant to do that.
Man. Did y'all ever have I'm going to ask this out of personal curiosity. So I never believed when I was in the infantry that birds could strike. You could have a rotor strike. Like when I was, a lot of guys that never work in aviation don't understand. Well, first of all, I'll explain this, is that rotor blades are not metal. They're composite. So, and they have metal leading edges on them. So there's like a strip of metal, it's a leading edge. And that's actually when for my guys who thought it was cool to watch helos land at night, and in our MBGs, you see all the sparkles and shit. That's dirt hitting the damn leading edge. So instead,
I can't tell me how many hours I've spent painting the front of them bitches. Because after every mission, we would have to go repaint that so the sand didn't destroy the metal. We had to go spray paint every fucking mission.
Man,
So yeah,
So, I guess, did you ever
go
have
ahead with
any
your curiosity
no,
questions.
no, you're good. Did you ever have any rotor strikes? Because I know in Edinburgh, so Fob Edinburgh was right north of us, so it was our close jump to our AO, and then so if a medevac happened, there were 2 Blackhawks that were stationed there, and there was a 53 that came in one night and had brownout. He didn't pull forward enough, and the 53 put the entire tail in the berm. And yeah. So anyway, but I guess my question was: did you ever strike any rotors? Because
Yeah, it wasn't in Afghanistan though.
Oh,
We
okay.
were in training out in Colorado doing high altitude training
Mm.
to get prepared again for going back to the mountains of Afghanistan. And we were doing confined space flight.
Oh, okay.
And we'd come in and landed to this LZ, I don't know, 3 or 4 times. And on one of them, I come down and landed, and we rolled forward, I don't know, a foot or 2, and we're parked. And the instructor pilot beside me was like, he was actually on my left side. He goes, "Hey, I'm going to take this takeoff." Okay, that's nothing uncommon. And I clear my side, and they clear in the back, and we go to take off. We get 20, 30 feet is my estimate, and all hell breaks loose.
Oh no.
We're fucking just the loudest crashing, just chaos. And all of a sudden we are down on the ground because as soon as he hit it, he slammed it to the ground. So we come straight up and straight the fuck back down. And I look over at him, and we're all looking like, what the fuck was that? Well, what we didn't know when we came in, traditionally when a helicopter comes in trees and they're close, it'll push them out because of the wind.
Yeah.
But when you take that power out, the trees stand back up.
Oh.
Well, in our scenario, if you can imagine this and this are branches off the tree, when we came back, when we lowered the power, the trees basically did this. So our rotors are sitting there like this.
Wow.
Well, when we went to take off, we ran right into the trees.
Man.
Well, I didn't know it at the time, but he saw this and he thought he could get us out of it and didn't say anything to the crew. So when he hit them and slammed back down, all of us are clueless.
Yeah.
And get out. And one tip cap, you mentioned about the blades, they have tip caps on them.
Yep.
So if you do hit it, it tears that up and it's an easy replacement. You're not replacing the whole blade kind of deal. We had destroyed one of those, banged up another 1 or 2 of them, and our maintenance test pilot came, landed behind us, checked it out. We called the commander. We got a one-time flight approval. Knowing what I know now, I never would have gotten that bird. The maintenance test pilot, phenomenal pilot.
Yeah.
He's done what would be considered IFR, and that's instrument flight. For those that don't know, essentially you're looking only instruments, you're not looking outside. So he's on the side of a mountain in Afghanistan in fogs, clouds, whatever, holding a hover while doing a hoist. And another one that he did, somebody had buried a bird up in mud to where it was almost sitting at the side of the aircraft.
Yeah.
He got in and the blades were like striking the ground until it got spun up.
Wow.
So he gets it spun up, and then you watch, there's a video on YouTube. He just wiggles this blackhawk until he gets it unstuck, and then he takes off and flies back.
Man.
So he's the dude that's behind us.
Yeah.
So he's fly anything. He ain't scared. Well, he tells us, oh, it'll be fine. He tells the commander it'll be fine. We get back. There's a split all the way down one of the blades. The one tip cap's completely gone. Like, how we managed to get back, I have no idea, other than an angel hanging on.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've had the bird strikes. I've had some where we come back, when I was talking about Fob Wilson, when they were getting jacked up, come back and land, do our post flight. Yep, there's a bullet hole, there's a bullet hole, there's a bullet hole. Oh shit,
yeah.
horn just went off. Jump in the other aircraft. Let's go again.
Man.
So when you hear about shoot downs and stuff like that, I didn't get shot down in the technical sense that we went straight down, but when we landed, we couldn't fly the bird.
Yeah.
The transmission on the tail section right about there had a dent about this big around where around it hit it.
Oh,
And
shit.
just, it didn't puncture it. It just dented the shit out of it. And then our hydraulic deck was lit up and a few other spots. I had one crew chief that she caught a round in the back of the helmet, hit one side, blew out the other, burned her on the back of the neck. The bullet was that close to her neck.
Man.
And we landed, and if we told her, we're like, you need to fucking get a lottery ticket today.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
we had so many close calls. It's crazy when rounds are just, man, because when we first got to our location in Afghanistan, we couldn't bring a resupply in without it getting shot at. And
yeah.
the aviation guys the pilots were like, dude, y'all have got to do something about this. So funny, but 7 months later, we pushed that security bubble out 12 clicks. So it was good by the time we left. But I guess somebody else asked a question, which I was going to ask anyway. So like, I guess, craziest thing you had to do, I guess, to do your job out there.
I mean, they were all so different.
Yeah, I know.
The one that sticks out in my head, and it wasn't crazy in the element of just complexity in the thought of like, oh, this is going to be hard. In all intents and purposes, it was a very straightforward mission. Even though it was an alpha, we go out and it's night, right? And you've been in those cities of Afghanistan. There's the mud walls, 8, 10 feet high or whatever, separating the different areas. And we go to where the GPS is. We know it's going to be a straight down, and we're going to dust out, and we just got to commit. So we did that, got back, and that was, I don't know, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. We get another call about 5 or 6 right after sunrise. And we'd already had another one in between there, or 2 at that point. But that one, we're on the way there, and I was like, man, I recognize some of these numbers. And so I went back and looked at my little chart log that I'd write all this stuff down. Sure shit, it was the same one. Well, as we're going in, it's daylight now. Dude, only reason we went in is because we knew we had fucking done it that night.
Wow.
But when you saw it in the daytime, there ain't no way that we would have done it had we not already done it, because it was me and a brand new lieutenant or captain at the time. As far as like just sketchy maneuvers.
Yeah.
Another one was being in training there at Bagram in the mountains and having a guy do an emergency engine shut off on you when you're in high altitude trying to cross a mountain. Not fun. Aircraft does not like it. Falls like a rock.
So the auto rotation myth is I mean, I know,
dude, that's a scary maneuver in and of itself.
Yeah. So it called back to what you had said earlier in the podcast. Some of my guys might not know this. I know this from the wing, but when you were saying you guys had to, you have to qual. So you can't just not fly for like 6 or 8 or 10 or 12 months and then turn around and jump back in a bird. You have to go back through all the quals. If you guys from fast roping remember, we had to fast rope every so many days. We had to do quals on the birds every so many days. Same with pilots. They have to stay qualled. So I guess
even when you go to new units,
yeah,
even when you go to Afghanistan again, when you do your changeover, you've got to do what they call left right seat rides.
Right.
So you're flying with the people that are in country for the last 8 months and getting refreshed on the area, getting enemy situation, flying in that environment.
Yeah.
So yeah, all that's part of it.
So now, and I got told when I went to the wing that y'all had to do auto rotation, like the aircrafts have to be auto rotation certified. I don't know, and I wasn't sure whether I actually seen it, but one of the crew chiefs told me, he was like, "Yeah, dude, they have to do it. They have to go up there, they just shut the engines off, make sure it auto rotates, and then turn them back on." And I'm like, "Nah, bro, no way in hell."
So
I had never seen anybody kill engines all in like that for an auto. They will do simulated autos.
Oh, okay.
Where they'll roll back the engines.
Okay.
To idle.
Okay. That might have been what he was talking about.
So you're not fully losing power.
Right.
But that said, anything could go wrong in that scenario where the engine dies out because it's at idle or fucking anything possibly go wrong.
Yeah.
One of the things you do in initial training is you do autos all the way to the ground. Well, you don't in the Blackhawk. You go to about 20 or 30 feet, and that's your stopping point. Like, that's your hard deck, because they don't want anybody balling up multi-millionaire aircraft, right? If they fuck that up.
Yeah.
The bad thing is it builds a bad muscle memory. Because now, if you have to do it for real, now your judgment's slightly off because of where you're used to pulling the power and doing the maneuver. So, it's one of the maneuvers you want to be able to do really well, but it's also one of the maneuvers you never really want to have to do.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Man. So was there ever a time when we were told on the ground, but sometimes that, okay, this LZ is too hot. Was there ever a time where the LZ was too hot and you as a pilot made the decision where you're like, no, we're going to go anyways? Like, or
the one I told you where the crew chief got the bullet in the back.
Okay.
Of the helmet.
Mm-hmm.
So that one, I wasn't a pilot in command yet. I was just a PI. But on the first deployment for me, the pilot in command for the medevac got to make the decision.
Mm-hmm.
Once they got approval to launch, that was automatic approval to land. It was on the pilot and the crew to decide whether they were going to or not. So in some of those, you got hot LZs, and even then they would call you. So on this one, our sister bird had just taken off with their chase. We got called up and didn't have a chase. So we were going to a different LZ totally. Well, whenever the patients all got sorted out, we were going to one that was gunshot wound to the head, and somebody else was gunshot, whatever, right? So as we're coming up, the ground crew calls that this guy is not going to make it, like hot LZ or not.
Right.
So we made the call as a crew, fuck it, we're going in. Like, we're not going to let this guy die because we're sitting there having a fucking circle. Go in, get him out. It's hot, but this aircraft's built to fly.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's put it to its paces.
Yeah.
So there was definitely ones where the pilots at the time got to make the call. Now, fast forward to my third deployment, and it was all command decision back at the FOB, making decisions on what you were doing.
Yeah.
One of the ones that I'm most proud of, that ironically enough, I never got anything from the Army. But we're out at one of the FOBs supporting the Polish.
Oh, shit. Okay.
So we did one mission, and it's kind of hard to see the coins.
Those Polish challenge coins?
Yeah.
Sick.
So it's from the Special Force Unit that we picked up. And it's one of the missions that I like to talk about because it's one where in all face of it, it looked normal, fine, like not a crazy mission in that sense. But ultimately, we got called out to support the Polish on the ground for a gunshot wound. Well, we didn't have gunship support. We didn't have a chase with a gun on it at the time. We just had med on med. Well, they had their Heinz or whatever, which is our equivalent of the Apache, right? Well, by the time they got spun up, we're out there loitering for 20 minutes, basically burning circles away from where the LZ is. And they finally come up, and we get approval to land. And if you've ever been out west, well, you've been there, so you know what do they call peninsulas or whatever, or plateaus, where basically just some flat walls, flat top. So there was houses all around the base, grass, green areas, and then a bunch of mud huts on the top of this thing. So the GPS calls us to land right in the center. So as we're coming in, we land, no patients, nobody around. So we end up calling for a go round because we're like, fuck, we're not just going to sit here. We don't know. So we get back and go around, get in touch with the ground guys again. And like, what the hell? And about that time, my guy sees the patient, but they're right beside one of these mud huts. And me and the pilot command were talking. I said, there's a reason they didn't come out there.
Yeah.
So we need to put the bird as close to them as we can. So if you can imagine the slope on the side of this thing like this, I'll flip it so my fingers work, but 2 front fingers being the front wheels of the Blackhawk, this being the tail. When we set it, the tail wasn't touching the ground.
Oh, shit.
So we ended up putting the rotor disc about 1 foot to 2 foot off the side of this wood hut or mud hut, whatever, while we had the 2 front wheels on the ground, and we're basically doing a half hover type deal. They bring this dude out. Normally you load about waist level. Because of the way we were situated, they had to load him above their head. Mind you, this is a 230, 250 guy. Like, he's a big dude. They get him loaded in. We take off, and as we're taking off, we dip down the side of the hill and buzz across low-level treetop to get the fuck out. Fast forward, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours. We're already back at the fob. We got him dropped off and everything, and doing what we do, watch movies, video games, passing dead time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Complete chaos to nothing to complete chaos. That's the medevac. So I'm sitting there, and this dude comes back, and he's like, hey, John, come up front. We got some people up here. And so I walk up, and there's a dude standing there with 2 other guys on either side. They make him look like a midget. And by that, I mean just short in stature, right? Nothing derogatory towards anybody. But the fact is, the 2 guys beside him are giants.
Wow.
I say I'm 5'10".
Yeah.
And he was my height. But they made him look short, right? So he looks at me, he's like, you fly? I said, yes, sir. He said, you fly? Very broken English, right? I said, yes, sir. He said, you big boss. Like, I just kind of chuckled like I am now. I was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
He's like, he snaps his fingers, and these 2 guys bring around from their back. They've got a bottle of Bison vodka and a bottle of Jack Daniels.
Nice.
And he hands it to me, and he said, this is for us.
Mm.
Well, what we didn't know is we were supporting a small SF unit of theirs where their sniper got shot. And so they were pinned down for like 3 or 4 hours before we got there from RPG and small arms fire.
Mm.
And so they couldn't get out. And when we dipped in, the enemy tucked their head, which was common.
Yeah.
Well, when we dipped out, they did the same thing. Well, the unit took advantage of that. And as soon as we dipped out and the enemy dipped their head, they dipped the fuck out.
Yeah.
So that small unit actually managed to make it back to the fob alive because of what we ended up doing, even though we didn't know that's what we were doing. We thought we were doing just the one part.
Yeah.
And so whenever we got back, that was his way of awarding us for saving his small SF unit.
Man.
And fast forward, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 months, we get back to the States.
Oh, they gave you a Polish medal. Nice.
And I get presented a Polish Army medal. It's the highest award that they can give to any military individual outside of Poland.
That's awesome.
Which I thought was pretty badass, especially when you look at some of the names that are associated with the receiving of that medal.
Yeah.
And so that one's always stuck with me.
Yeah. That, one of the things about being a pilot, and that I can imagine is you never get to see the the end. You know what I'm saying? You see the chaos. I mean, obviously, you guys see the combat, but you don't only see a snapshot of it. You get in there, you get the patient, you fly away, and then I'm assuming that some nights you lay awake wondering, did that guy make it? Like, did we do it? Did we get him in time? Like, how did you deal with that during the deployment? Did you just kind of have to say you had to, kind of like us, you got to push it to the side, and just.
I didn't even think about it. As fucked up as that is.
No,
it's like, I got them. I got home.
Yeah.
Now they're in the hands of the professionals that can ensure that they're going to make it the rest of the way.
Yeah.
We had some that didn't make it.
Right.
I had one guy that, I don't know if he made it or not, but the medic calls up front and he's like, hey, can you hold it steady for the next minute or so? And of course, we're hauling ass back.
Yeah.
And I'm already doing what I would consider holding it steady. You never intentionally have it rough.
Right.
You're always trying to strive to be better and smoother at what we do. And I half-assed jokingly said, yeah, I'll see what I could do. I said, well, what do you got going back there? And he said, well, I'm about to crack this guy and I don't want to fuck it up.
Oh, shit.
And that, for those that don't know, that's where they cut into their neck.
Yeah.
And feed them the breathing. And son of a bitch did that twice to me. 2 different missions. Like, I don't want to be responsible for you cutting through the back of this dude's neck because I hit some turbulence.
Okay. I got to interrupt you here because John's not going to go into the explanation because riding in a helicopter is obviously like sitting on a couch to him. So for those of you who've never ridden on a helicopter, I'm going to tell you what it's like. It is like sitting in a motherfucking washing machine. Okay. It's like, they are never like the movies with all this bullshit where people talk to each other in the helicopter. It doesn't exist. You can't hear yourself think in a helicopter.
Yeah,
and
you're screaming if anything.
Yeah. And so the thing is that with that movement, the medics are incredible. I mean, the fact that they can do what they do is unreal. And also on top of that, these things are not like super clean. I remember the first 46 I was on as a Lance Corporal. I remember there was hydraulic fluid leaking on my pack, and I grabbed the crew chief and I pull him down to where I can scream into his ear. And I'm like, hey, it's leaking. And he looks at me and he screams back at me. He says, oh, it's good. Tell me if it stops leaking. That means we're out of hydraulic fluid and we're fucked. And I was like, oh my God, dude. Which years later as a maintainer, I would laugh and say, yeah, that's completely true. But
for sure.
What is the craziest thing that you guys that you seen a medic do to keep someone alive?
I'd say seeing these guys have almost elbow deep in somebody's body.
Oh,
like actively digging and tying and clamping or whatever they're doing to stop bleeding. Is probably the most intense thing. And I'd show you some. When you see Dave's pictures, you'll see a better graphic representation of some of the stuff that I'm talking about, which ultimately is pretty crazy, pretty intense. When you look at how bad these folks can be jacked up and the elements that go into keeping them alive, in that critical hour.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's wild to me. Even our own medics, like, the things they had to do. And it's just like, I mean, you guys, you're really the taxi drivers. You know what I mean? Like your job is to get them there and get them back as soon as possible. So,
yep.
Okay.
I got tremendous and mad respect for my medics.
Yeah.
They're the ones that are jumping off the bird, running across the battlefield, getting the brief, grabbing the patient. At times it's on a litter. At times they're fucking hand walking them over. At times they're dragging them. Just all depends. We've had some where they would get left on the battlefield because the LZ get too hot and the birds got to move.
Right.
And so they got to take off and then they'll circle back around. The medic jumps and stays with the unit, for a few minutes and stays pinned down or protected. And then we swing back in and get them. Fortunately for me, I never had to do that or never had that scenario. But I've definitely been on ones where we had one where we were coming in, and I was the chase bird because we were doing med on med. And as they're going in to land into the LZ, we come across their left side right over the tops of the trees, and we do a sweeping turn in front of them after they land. And by the time we get turned around and come back in to land behind them, they're taking off again. And the radio, as you can imagine, in the moments like that are just full of chaos.
Yeah.
You know, multiple people talking, multiple people trying to action things and put things and people in place. And so all we get is that they've got a gunshot wound and they're taking off. Well, on the 9 line, it's a gunshot wound. So we're assuming that they're grabbing the one gunshot wound and going on. And we go into land to pick up the secondary patient, is what our mindsets are, is the chase. Well, as we come in, there's rounds that start getting walked in. And we're like, fuck this. Like, the unit actually started pulling away because they're like, he ain't that fucking bad. Yeah. We're getting out of here. We'll drive him back. So we, you know, in that moment of panic, and when the rounds were coming in on them, they're like, we're not fucking sticking around either. So as we're coming to land and watching the shit, they're taking off, and we're like, what the fuck is going on? You know? So we take off, you know, we don't actually fully land because all the shit's going on. So we sweep around and we get back in touch with our chase bird. And we're doing everything we can to try and catch up with them. But I mean, they're fucking balls to the wall. And finally getting radio reached and getting contacted with them, and finally figure out, no, they didn't pick up the gunshot wound on the ground. They took a gunshot wound. So what happened was when they landed, the doc was basically perched at the door. And when they, obviously after they landed, he got unbuckled, got at the door. Well, as soon as he got there, he took a round basically through the backside, knocked him back into the bird, and the medic happened to see him fall back and ran back over because he was only about 5 or 10 feet away at that point, running to where the patient was supposed to be. Realizes it, starts doctoring in the doc, you know, and they take back off and head back to the fob. So when we get back, we're like, what the fuck, y'all? And they're like, yeah, Doc got shot. And I was like, what do you mean Doc got shot? And they're like, yeah, dude, he was fucking in the aircraft, and then he's way in the aircraft, like fucking knocked him into the aircraft. And I was like, holy shit, is he okay? And they're like, yeah, he'll survive. He ain't gonna walk right for a little while, and he ain't gonna be happy, but he'll be good. It was an Air Force doc that flew with us. And I like to equate him, if you've ever seen MASH, and for anybody that hadn't, go back and watch it. It's a great Vietnam series with comedy and relief in there. But Hawkeye and Pierce, the two guys that are in there that are the captain surgeons that just don't generally give a fuck.
Yeah.
That was kind of, if you took those two characters and blended them into one, that was this guy. Like, he was that kind of medic or doc. He's an Air Force guy with the Army folks at a Polish fob. Wow. So he had zero of anybody oversight of this motherfucker. He didn't do whatever he wanted, but he could do whatever he wanted, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? So there were times where he would go visit the Polish fire department and other elements that were there on the fob, you know, and we couldn't do it because we were on duty. He would have days off or whatever, but yeah. Man. When he took that round, that was one where you're like, ooh, that's a little too close.
That's too close. You know? Yeah.
And you expect it. You expect it on the adults. The one thing I will say that to this day still sticks with me is the kids. Yeah. Like, going into battle, you expect to see grown ass people. Mm-hmm. It's a thing. You even expect to see some grown people that are casualties of war. You know, that there's the element of that you mentally prepare for. But what you don't prepare for is when you pick up a kid that's the same age of your daughter that you have back home, and you look back there and you can't not see your own daughter. Yeah. You know what I mean? Or your own son in that element. And picking up kids that have been bowled halfway, you know, where their parents take them and dip them in a pot of boiling water till they're waist deep, and then pull them out and call the medevac and say that the U.S. Air Force or Army or whoever fucked their kid up with whatever. And you pick these kids up, and their parents have to go with them. Well, in that environment, you don't know who's good, who's bad, or who's indifferent, you know? Yeah. So one of the things we preached all the time is when you bring packs on board, you fucking search them before they ever close to the aircraft.
Yeah.
Especially the escorts that ride with them, because a lot of the times they would come on with something as simple as a watch, and they would time. How long did it take to get the medevac there? How long did it take to the medevac get back? What route did they take? And they would take all these notes and this knowledge back. At times, you couldn't pick one out from another as far as good guy, bad guy. It'd be like picking one of us out that was going to do something stupid. You don't know. But they were doing level of intelligence like that.
Shit.
One of the scariest moments wasn't even in the aircraft. It was actually at Fob Shank, where they would get a ton of IDF, indirect fire, where they're basically lobbing fucking rounds onto the fob. And so, what was it? The first day I showed up to that fob, a guy had a round come through his tent, go between his legs, and blow up underneath his bed and killed him.
Shit.
It wasn't uncommon that every other day there was one going into the cafeteria, so you never knew when one was going to hit when you're eating.
Mm-hmm.
And it was such a small fob that they were pretty fucking accurate, right? It wasn't like Bagram, which is so damn big that if a round comes in, hell, that could be 2 miles away.
Yeah.
But it's still on the fob, so the alarm's still going off. On this one, it's like being at your neighbor's house and having something hit at the house beside you kind of deal. It's that level of accuracy. And so we're there one time, and I was under a desk wiring up computers and all sorts of shit at the time, and we just hear this loud ass like explosion. So, I'm rattled under this fucking wood desk. I'm like, what the fuck was that? And we start crawling out. I crawl out, and all the medics and everybody's running outside, and all you see is this huge plume of dust. And when I say huge, I mean like hundreds of feet up in the air. Us being us, medevac, we're not getting any calls, but we run to the fucking explosion. Most people run away from that shit. Our medics and all of us are running towards it kind of deal. Like, where can we help? What can we do? And come to find out is a vehicle explosion that had happened. Mm-hmm. And after the fact, I got a video off YouTube that was their view of it. So they had actually made a propaganda video where they showed them drawing basically colored pencils drawings of the fob, all the tents, all the hangars, all the aircraft layout, everything. Wow. And it shows them drawing this stuff, right? It shows the truck drive around the road and then beside the fob. And this video is from a hill, right? Like, basically, if you're looking at this picture, right here's where they're sitting, and figure out my directions. Right here's where the fob is, right? So it's a fairly clear view of this whole thing, right? So they video this truck, and you see it pull along the wall, and it stops. And then that bitch just explodes. Damn. And it's a water tanker. It's not just like a regular pickup. They took a diesel water tanker like you'd see driving down the road. You probably seen them with milk in them or gas or whatever. They filled one of those full with explosives and detonated it right beside there. Blew out the T-wall, blew out about 3 or 4 tents deep, of damage. And in the video, you can actually see the shockwave come across because it pushes the dirt as it comes, right? So it comes all the way to where they're at. And then you hear the boom, like a minute or two after that of the concussion of it.
Yeah.
And the video is actually the driver clips back and forth between him driving and the drawing, and then it shows him with like his family and a fish that he caught, and like they're all hugging him goodbye and all this shit. And it was wild being on the receiving end of that, and then seeing the actual outside view of that fucking explosion.
Yeah.
Insane, dude.
Damn.
Insane. And if you're ever looking on YouTube, you can find the video. I've got it on a laptop of mine, but that was one of those where you're just like, how in the fuck did we survive? Like, when you look at the size of the explosion that was there, and the fact that there wasn't more casualties and more injuries than there were, but it was just they were aiming for the hospital, and I think he overdrove his spot because of the way that the fob was laid out. The hospital was fairly close to those T barriers on that side. And I think where he should have stopped was here, and he stopped like right here.
Damn.
So it ended up not affecting the hospital like it could have.
Man, and you know, the crazy thing is the HESCOs, man, you know, you're talking about a lot of those FOBs and small bases had those, you know, huge HESCOs. And for those of you who don't know, HESCO is essentially a giant wire box filled with dirt. So, and they're about, what would you say, about 5, 6, 7, 8 feet thick? I mean, they're huge.
Oh yeah, they're every bit of 8 by 8.
Yeah,
probably anywhere from 10 to 12 foot tall. Or you had the concrete barriers that they started doing, just like you're seeing almost in your picture behind you.
Yeah,
I know that's not it, but that's kind of what it looks like, is just a concrete wall that they lay in Lego blocks version.
You know, the crazy thing is where I was stationed, Shergazi, we had, so it was funny because we had all the important shit on the outskirts. And so we had tanks, and then we had an LZ. So it was about 2 football fields. That's all the entire FOB was. And but we put all our trucks in the middle. And then there was this huge open space in the middle where all the trucks turned around. But every time we got mortared, which was often, they always landed in the middle. They were so perfect in shooting at the middle, but there was never anything there. So then dumb sons of bitches never hit anything. But yeah, man. So okay, I'm gonna move on from Afghanistan. So when you get back, you were married. You said you had kids. When you get back, what was it like when you got out? And, you know, because I always say that we don't really feel like we deal with a lot of this shit until we get out. You know, you've seen a lot of shit. You've seen probably the worst because, you know, for us infantry guys, we'll see a lot of that stuff. But you know what I'm saying? Like, we take the casualty, we put the casualty on the bird, but like, you've seen that day in and day out, 3 deployments. So I guess I'm going to ask, like, how did you deal with it? Or do you still, do you feel like today that you have it under control? Or, you know, what was the process that you went through after you got out of the Army?
Before I get there, I'll say that each deployment is slightly different on readapting and reintegrating back in the family. Because each one you see a little bit more, you see a little bit different. You know, your kids are a little bit older, your marriage is a little bit later down the road and things like that. When it came to getting out, by the time I was done, I was done. I was done with the Army. I was done with the stupidity that went along with it. You know, I kind of told you earlier with my scenario of where I was supposed to do one thing and ended up not doing another. I tried therapy for a while before I got out. My wife actually told me I had to stop going because I was coming home angrier than when I wouldn't go. And ultimately I had one therapist that I was going to for a little while, military therapist, civilian doc or whatever. But she's like, I'm actually going to get somebody else to take you on because you're outside of my level of expertise.
Wow.
And of course, you know, when you're going through that, one of the things that pops in my head is like, dang, I knew I was crazy, but like, you're like, now I'm next level for you as a psychiatrist. That's not good.
Not good.
And then like for me, I got a re-eval after I got out. After 3 years after I got out, I did a re-eval. And when you read the CFR and it talks about the different elements and the levels and everything, when you look at PTSD and to be rated at 100%, you essentially have to be mentally insane. Like it's almost written that way, right? So when I got my re-eval and they came back at 100% just for PTSD and combat related, and then all my body elements, even using the VA math, I equaled 100%. So now told, even using VA math, I'm over 200%.
Right.
But when I got the 100% rating on the PTSD, and I'd already read it, but even reading it again, I was just like, man, that's a gut check as a grown man to now acknowledge that fact. It is in writing, it's on paper. So now how do you deal with it? Like, well, you do what you've always done? Do you try something different? What do you do now? And for me, it's been the family and some friends and whatnot that surround me. I overall do fairly well on most days. I have days where I just don't do well. I don't do well at certain events, and it'll be fine for 1 minute, and the next minute I've had times where I'm grown ass man. I remember coming back after the first deployment, and for no reason at all, we were in my wife's hometown where the bar's at, and we're going to a beer garden for the county festival and all that jazz. And I took one step into this beer garden, and it was so packed full of people. I turned around and told her I couldn't, and I walked 50 feet, 100 feet to a bridge, and I just collapsed like a sack of potatoes, man. And I just sit there and cried. Couldn't fucking control it. Just mentally broke down. Yeah. And all I was doing is walking into a local beer garden area, open outside, that I'd been to multiple times by this point. When I was stationed there in the Air Force, we used to do it every year. So now going in and experience that overwhelming sensation of just not having any control and any in that mindset, you're like, anything can go bad, and it's likely going to go bad. So which way do I look? How am I gonna protect all y'all, right?
Yeah.
And I've had different scenarios over the years of situations like that, and my wife gets irritated with me from time to time because, like I said earlier, we go to Talladega twice a year, and the concert's a big thing.
Oh yeah.
And there's a lot of people that go to it, but we go around to the backside, so I don't have to deal with all the people. We never go down in the main crowd or anything like that. Well, they everybody wants to be right up there on the stage, and I'm not that guy, and especially not anymore. So I watched, and I wouldn't let my kids or friends go up there without having some sort of level escort, because I was like, I don't fucking know or trust any of these people.
Yeah.
People in alcohol can be great, or it can be very bad.
Yeah.
And you never know when something's going to trigger something in that environment. And I remember this is well after I retired. We're hanging out, and I just had that feeling like it wasn't anything that you could see or reach out and touch, but it was like on edge. So I was keeping everybody like a hen. I'm like keeping everybody close, right?
Yeah.
So my wife and my buddy's daughter were going around. We do Jello shots that we make and give out, and they were out doing their thing, giving Jello shots away, and be damn if a fight didn't break out in the front of the crowd. And the fight started moving towards us, and so now I'm snatching my people up, like, y'all get the fuck over here out of this. Y'all start heading back, because I could see it coming our way.
Yeah.
And sure as shit came right onto us. And by the time I got everybody corralled and we're going back to the thing, that fucking fight follows us all the way around. These 2, 3, 4 dipshits are doing whatever. And I was just like, this is why I want y'all like close. I said, because at any point these people decided to stampede over there, there's nothing you can do about it. Mm-hmm. You're going to get trampled by 2,000 fucking people in this nasty ass muddy ground, and they're not going to find you till it's cleared out, and when you're talking about maybe a grown person, but the friends' daughters and even my son at the time, you're talking 120, 130 pound people. You're not talking bigger folks like me, they're not big people, so they're easily run over when people are panicked or freaking the fuck out, and so it just stuff like that I still am weary of, and I'm more alert. I'm like a lot of people. I don't like to sit with my back to the door. I generally, when I go somewhere, I'll make sure that I got line of sight of the door, that my back's against some level of wall, or nobody can come behind me, and just weird little nuance shit like that. It's a big thing.
Yeah, it's funny. When I did the PTSD exam, I remember the first time I did the first one for the VA. And I don't remember what it come back as. I think it's higher now, but I want to say the initial was like 50%. And I remember going,
my initial came back at 30.
Yeah, did it? Okay, yeah.
And then the reeval came back at 100.
See, so the reeval for me came back at 70, which is where mine's at now. But I'll never forget, like, even just the 50, I was like, because, it was literally some woman talked to her. I was like, I'm not lying. I'm just going to tell you, like, and it's like you said, it's the trust thing. And the thing for me is you already had kids. So and now I get it. You did 3 deployments. So, but like for me, I didn't have kids till I got out. And so like I already had like the way I was. And I was like, well, it's fine. And then I had kids, and then it opens up a whole nother level of craziness, because it's like now you bring kids into a world that you don't fucking trust. And so then you're just psychotic about everything. And luckily, my wife, I mean, I couldn't ask for nobody better. I mean, she put up with my shit and listen, and she understands me. And so, for me, it's like, when if I'm ever spiraling, my wife's the one who's like, hey, look, like you I got it, and, but, I don't know. It's funny, cause there was like this whole, for the longest time, I think PTSD is pretty well understood now after 20 something years of war. And what I mean by that is I don't mean like understood completely. I mean, the general public kind of gets it to the point of like, they're not psychotic. They're not going to kill everybody. It's just, it's a thing. And, I mean, so now looking back, what advice would you give to somebody who, I'm not saying you're perfect. I'm not perfect. No one's perfect. But what advice would you give to somebody who's still seriously struggling with that kind of stuff? And you having the experience you've had, it's been a long time. What would you tell those guys?
My phone's always on. 402-212-1315. Call me anytime, day or night. Because I know damn good and well when I've made those calls, and I called the suicide hotline after I attempted suicide one time, and I got told, you need to schedule an appointment in 2 weeks and talk to somebody.
Oh, shit.
I fucking lost it. I said, is this not the emergency line for suicide? Yes, sir, it is. I said, cool. I just want to talk to somebody. Well, sir, I'm not qualified to do that. I'm just here to schedule you an appointment. I said, I don't need a fucking appointment. I want to fucking talk to somebody. That's it. I want to be able to verbalize and vent where I'm at right now in life. I said, I attempted suicide last night. I said, I'm not currently suicidal. I've made it past that phase right now. I said, but I want to talk to somebody. And when I got told to fucking call and set an appointment for 2 weeks out, that is not okay. That is not the way that anybody should fucking get a response whenever they're in that state of mind, or that when you're reaching out for help from professionals that are supposed to be there for specifically that. I lost a lot of faith and a lot of fucking trust in that scenario. And so I've always said it, and I go back to it, especially after my situation. My phone is always on.
Yeah.
My Facebook's always on. My email is there. Whatever means you need to do to communicate, know that at the very least, you can reach out to me. If you can't or don't want to reach out to anybody else, I'm there. I'm your fucking ears. I'm whatever you need at that moment to ensure that you know that you are more valuable than you are perceiving in that moment. And the other part is this too shall pass, right? We all live in those moments of there is no tomorrow because of this, whatever this is. There always will be.
Yeah.
You just have to process through to get there. And so that's the two things I would pass on. It's not knowledge, it's not wisdom, but it's the fact that there is somebody out there that will give you an ear, that will give you the support that you need and that you deserve. And that goes for military or otherwise. When it comes to mental health, I think that's a thing that needs to be known, and people need to be understanding of that. It's not always about the big hooplas and the charades and the circus monkeys and all that. It's literally just having somebody to fucking talk to.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Yeah. And I mean, that's one of the reasons why I do this, is so that guys can hear and clearly hear me and you and all the other guests I've had say, look, dude, we've been through it. We're still going through it or whatever, wherever you're at, because it's like I've said on here multiple times, like you made a great point in saying this will pass, because eventually, if you're still in the thick of it right now, you will eventually get to a place where you're going to look back and go, okay, but it is your responsibility, if you get to that place, to turn around and not shut the door behind you, is to tell the guys that are still going through it, hey, look, I've been through it. Here's how I got through it. And now it's time to make yourself into the next iteration, the best person, because that's the problem. We leave the military and we go, that was the best days of my life, and it's like, yeah, but bitch, you ain't like even halfway through life yet, dude. We did that in our 20s. You know what I mean? Like, now it's time to be a dad or a granddad.
So many great experiences beyond that, right? So many. I won't say so many, but there's a lot of service members that tied their identity to the service.
Yeah.
And I'll always be a service member. I'll always be a warrant in my heart, right? But that's not where my identity lies. That's a story or part of my story in all of the things that I've done in my life. I've gone on from the military to write 2 books that are on Amazon. I've been published in magazines. I'm getting published in a 2-page like special for a magazine coming up pretty soon. Getting to do these amazing podcasts and talk to great folks like you that are being a force multiplier for the folks like me, that I get to come on here and give my little bit, but you're able to take and do that multiple times and get even more out there to the community, which I absolutely love. I went on a reality show back in it's almost 2 years ago now. If anybody's familiar with MTV's Real World and The Challenge.
Oh shit, you on The Challenge?
No. So Wes Bergman from The Challenge.
Okay.
The red-headed bearded guy. He won one of those, and he's been on there multiple times, right? From the beginning all the way through. He took his winnings and he started an entrepreneurial workshop. It's a week-long workshop that also is a reality series. So I was on season 16 or 18. It's not something that you're going to get a lot of entertainment out of. You'll get some laughs and probably cry a time or two, but it's really meant for those entrepreneurs that are looking to learn to get better in certain areas for their business.
That's cool.
One thing that I loved about it is I was there with 99 other business owners or entrepreneurs or startups, right? So one of the guys had a $10 million gross the year before. If you don't think I got something to learn from that motherfucker, you're mistaken, right?
Holy
shit. So for me, it was great. And it's still great being able to, once you're done, you get dropped into a Facebook group that is of all the people before.
Yeah.
So right now I've got reach to 2,000 plus entrepreneurs, and it's growing monthly.
Awesome.
People all over the United States that are in totally ranging businesses that at any point, if I need an expert in any type of area or I want to reach out and ask a question, I've now got that group that I can reach out to. So it's another tool in the toolbox at the end of the day, but it's also cool to say that I've been on a reality TV show.
Yeah, that's pretty tight, man. Like, that's cool. And that's what I tell guys. It's like, look, excuse me, is you need to strive to learn new things. And like, it's like the thing is, don't get me wrong. Like, when I first started working as a farmer, I remember picking up dead chickens one day, and it was not long after I left the military. And like, because I was an NDI guy, we had a bird that had a bad, they did you'll understand this, but he had a hard landing. So Boeing emailed me, the AMO, the aviation maintenance officer, called me, said, hey, Rivers, I know you're getting out in a couple weeks. I got one last job for you. And I was like, cool, what is it? He was like, I'm going to fly you out to East San Diego County. So instead of driving, we're going to fly you in another V-22. I need you to do like a 2-minute inspection. The Boeing engineer told me what to look at. And it was cool because it was the last flight I did. And so I got to sit on the edge of the open ramp on the 22 and take photos. And, you know, I had flown so much at that point. It was non, you know, it was whatever, but it was cool because the major was like, this is the last one. And I was like, sick. It was really surreal though, you know, but I remember picking up chickens one day, and I was just picking up dead chickens in the chicken house, and I looked down at the ground, and I was just like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, you know, like kind of the same opinion you have when you first joined the military. And I remember thinking like, dude, like 6 months ago, I was riding in the back of V-22s, and this is just lame as fuck. But like, you know, like, but
well, it's funny you say that about the picking up dead chickens, because when I went to flight school, you remember that holdover status I told you I was in?
Yeah, okay.
Well, Enterprise had that horrible tornado come through that year that hit the high school and killed a couple of the folks. Well, there's tons of chicken plants down there, or farms down there. So 3 or 4 of them got hit by the tornado.
Yeah.
So we as WOX candidates all got voluntold to go help clean up the community, right? So our group got the chicken houses.
Oh my God.
So there were chickens spread
everywhere
for 3 counties.
Yeah.
And so we're, you know, you talk 300,000 chickens for your one farm. Like imagine that 3, 4, 5 times over. And there's just, it looked like a fucking massacre, man. I mean, they were everywhere. So we're over there just bagging and tagging, like piling them up and trying to do area cleanup. But yeah, that one sticks with me.
I bet.
So I can empathize a little bit on that one.
Yeah, I mean, you know, but like now that I look back, I'm like, you know what? I did it. And you know, it's like you said, you look back on that service and you don't let that service define you. Like I literally, my wife was literally just telling the story earlier in Subway yesterday, ran into a guy, come to find out he's a Marine, end up talking to him for like 20 minutes. And my wife's like, you know, here we go. He's going to run his mouth for like an hour, you know? But it's like, it doesn't define you, but you're still proud of it. And that's what I tell guys. It's like, dude, don't be afraid to tell somebody that you did it, but be proud of what you are today and what you're doing now, because you've got to, you can't just sulk for the rest of your life and be like, yeah, bro, it sucked, you know?
Yeah.
It's not the attitude.
Well, and that's the thing, man. And I know you know them, and then you might have some listeners that are this way, and they won't ever acknowledge it, but they'll know it's them. Is there are people that are never going to be fucking happy. They're always going to have something to bitch about. The world's always their issue. It's never them, and the world fucking hates them. Fill in the blank, right? So it doesn't matter what experience they've had in the military. They're going to shit on the military because that's just the vibe that they got. And when you look at their story, you look at yours and you're like, it ain't that deep, bro. It ain't that serious.
Yeah.
Like, like I know what you did for a living. Like it ain't you earn all that. Like some of the people I've heard bitching and complaining and things like that, I just look at and I'm like, you're not doing anything for yourself. And that's the one thing I get annoyed with is I will help anybody anytime to my best ability. And I found over the years that I'm getting more particular. And I hate to say that, but what I mean by that is I'm no longer willing to help anybody that's not willing to fucking help themselves.
That's right.
It starts with you.
Yeah.
If you're not going to take the step to better yourself or take the advice that you give or get from people that have walked the walk or been in that scenario or whatever, right? If you're going to them and asking them for their opinion and then you shit on the advice they give you or you turn your nose up at it or you just do complete opposite.
Yeah.
You don't have a leg to stand on to come back and bitch that it didn't work out your way. You know, like you got given the blueprint. You just chose not to follow it. So I found that I'm able to help more people if I set boundaries that way.
Yeah.
And you know, some people get shitty with you because they're like, "What the fuck, man? I did the thing.
Yeah.
I did, you know." And one of the examples I'll give you, I call it a Barney style breakdown, and I hate PowerPoint. Right, between the Air Force and the Army and corporate world, I fucking hate PowerPoint. But that said, I built the PowerPoint. It's like 15 slides. I did. I had to. But what I did was went and screenshot every step of the way for a veteran to be able to file their VA claim.
Interesting.
And screenshot by screenshot, right? So if you're a Vietnam vet, you hadn't touched a computer ever or beyond, right? You could sit down with this PowerPoint and go to the computer and you could walk yourself through it.
Nice.
And the thought there is I wanted to build it at that level because there are people out there that aren't tech savvy or get, as veterans especially, get very frustrated when the system's not an easy follow path, you know. And another one is if I give you directions, you know, A to B or A to whatever, and I go to follow that and there are gaps in that, that's very frustrating to me. So if I read something that says, all right, first thing you're going to see is the picture at the top of the screen, and then the next thing you're going to see is John's face. Well, no, there's all sorts of shit between that. And I need to know those steps to get to where John's face is, right? So when I built this, that was what I had in mind, was I didn't want to miss a single screenshot or anything that veteran might see when they went through there, so that they didn't get frustrated with the process and they could get past that one hurdle to get them going down the process line. And so, you know, I dropped that on Facebook groups that have military veterans. This one's specific to CRSC and whatnot. But you'll have people on there all the time like, hey, what about this? What about it? And it's the same questions. And it's like, dude, you didn't take 30 seconds to scroll even 2-3 links down and seen where somebody already answered that. You know, those are the people that aren't willing to help themselves. They just want somebody to give it to them and make it happen for them. And I'm like, no, that's not how this shit works, bro. You gotta step up and play your part. Like, nobody's going to give you shit. Yeah, you may feel like you deserve X, Y, and Z, but ain't nobody going to give you free money, whether you deserve it or not. You've got to go to them and say, hey, motherfucker, pay me. And then they'll go, oh yeah, we'll pay you.
You're probably the first, you're the first person on this podcast in 16 episodes that, man, I'm telling you that, like, I have found this with veterans where they're like, man, the fucking VA fucked me over, or this fucked me over. And then I'll get into, like, the details, get into the weeds with them, and then find out, like, bitch, you didn't do what you were supposed to do. And I'm like, I don't know how. Like, and you're right. Like, I mean, dude, I'm willing. And I'm the same way. Like, I will fuck myself over once for anybody. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'll go the length one time.
Fuck me once, shame on you. Fuck me twice, shame on me.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, dude, the second time I'm like, bitch, did you not do the, you know what I mean? What I told you to do. But I mean, you know, okay. So you wrote, I'm going to let you plug your books, cause I'm going to wrap it up here. So you wrote 2 books, you published them. So you got any, links you want to plug?
If you just go to Amazon and you search Mission Mindset, Jon King, JONKING, they should pop up.
Okay.
That said, one's free through the Kindle thing, and the other one's, I think I got it listed for $20.
Okay.
But if anybody does get them and there's an issue, just let me know. It's my first time doing it through Amazon like that. So hopefully I got it right. If not, you know, like, no harm, no foul. I'm not looking to make money off of it necessarily. I just wanted to, I'm a big believer in doing and trying and pushing myself. And that was something I hadn't done yet. And I was like, fuck it, let me see what I can do and put something together. One's a very short, like, leadership, not in leadership in the sense of what you probably think or have ever read. You've heard me talk at this point. Like, I use technology to help me write better because I write how I talk. So you won't read it in the format of which I talk, but you'll get that glean of me in the writing of it all. And then the other one just talks about me as growing up in Arkansas and through the military and everything like that. And neither one of them are super long reads or anything like that. Like I said, I just want to get that one out there. I do have Real Apparel Company that I'd love to give a shout out for it's rack for short. And my tagline is, because who doesn't love a nice rack? And what that is me being me again after a lot of tragedy. Almost 4 years ago now, we lost my father-in-law, who was a mentor of mine for 20 plus years. 3 months later, in a 3-day succession, I lost my oldest brother to cancer. I lost my uncle to suicide the next day based on his health. And then the third day, we as a nation lost 9 service members over Fort Campbell, Kentucky. That were the medevac unit that I was with my entire time. And so after all that, I don't know if you'd call it me breaking or what, but I had to get back to being creative again and just getting mentally out again. So I started a real apparel company, and I do different graphic designs from military support to just funny stuff, Valentine's stuff, Halloween, whatever kind of clicks to me to get on and create. I do it. If people buy it, cool. If they don't, it's still for me, and allowing me that mental freedom from that. But ironically enough, I came up with my tagline, and you kind of chuckled, and most people do. And when I came up with the line, I was sitting there designing a deer t-shirt, big ass buck on the back of a t-shirt. And then my neighbor came over. He's a big deer hunter and pool player. And he wanted to show off his new tattoo. He got a pool rack tattooed with all the different balls. And so I got this deer in front of me. I got his pool rack, and I was like, who doesn't love a nice rack? You got a deer rack, you got a pool rack, you got a clothing rack, and then you got the traditional rack that everybody loves. So it all kind of ties into that from that side of the house. But I started that one. That falls under my main company, Veteran Reachback Group, and that was initially built and started to do kind of what I'm doing now, is a little bit of consulting, a little bit of mentorship, a little bit of government contracting. When I started it, I'd already done 80% of the stuff you needed to go do government contracting. So I was like, again, I'm me. So I'm like, fuck it. Yeah. Let me do the little bit more work and have that if I ever want to do it or need it. So I've got my certification through the SBA as a service disabled veteran owned small business, and got registered in SAM.gov, got my DUNS number, and all that. So I have the potential to be able to do government contracting if I find the right person that wants to partner with me, and kind of take it and do their thing with it. And we just take a little bit on the backside. And then I founded a nonprofit, Eagle Rising Foundation, roughly the same time. That one it's 2 different kind of elements to it. One is more local or community involvement. I do a haunted trail on my property every year. So far, we've raised right around $20,000 for the baseball team, the local high school baseball team, over the last 5 or 6 years. I sponsored a 3/4 size Vietnam memorial wall representing 70,000 plus names of fallen since Vietnam to Talladega International Motorsports Hall of Fame.
Oh, heck yeah.
Brought that one out of Texas and set it up there at the International Motorsports Hall of Fame in front of the track for a race. Done a barbecue cook, like 2,200 pounds of meat one time for the barbecue, for the baseball team. And then the other side is the mentor side. And that's really where I want the trajectory to go for Eagle Rising when I get enough people surrounding me with it. But right now I've got 10 different programs in mentorship. The 2 examples I'll give real quick, because I know you want to kind of wrap it up, but one is barbecue that I'll give you an example on, and the other is entrepreneurship. So the barbecue one is, imagine that Kansas City barbecue ribs very well, right? And I'm a Texas rib guy, but I want to learn more about Kansas City style. So you as a mentor, you go on, you register for the program, you sign up, and you get access to the calendar. You'll pick 15-minute blocks that work for you for virtual meet and greets. At that point, you're done. You wait until you get tagged again. So now me as a mentee, I come along, I get registered, I sign up, and I say, hey, I want to learn about Kansas City ribs. So I go to that category and I select, I see the calendar with all these different mentors and their blocks of time. I find the one that works for me and my schedule. I book it. Now we do a virtual meet and greet, 15 minutes or however long it goes. If it's good, then you as a mentor will reach back out to us. We will then send you a package. In the example of barbecue, think a 1/4 rack of ribs, a little pack of spices, full gloves, the basic things you need to do the mentorship session at no charge. Thought is the mentor spent a lifetime getting the experience. I don't want to charge them to pass it on. The mentee is coming along to gain knowledge. I don't want them spending a fortune trying to learn even just a little bit to find out whether they even like it or not, right? So that's that one. Then the entrepreneurial track is, and as much as I hate the word, it will be targeting transition veterans that are about a year out from separation, whether it's just separation or retirement, that have the entrepreneurial spirit and passion like I do, and you obviously do, and set them up for success to start their own business at their transition point. And the thought being they'll put a package in very much like a warrant package. It won't be easy. It'll be time consuming. Like they're going to have to put in the effort. And the intent there is to weed out about 80% of the what ifers, the guys and girls that come along and say, I want to start a business, but they don't put any effort into it, right? So if they can make it through the package, that at least shows that they have the wherewithal and the passion and the consistency and the follow through that it takes to even get a business going, right? So now we take them, we set them with a single lead mentor and probably 4 subs that have experience in every element of whatever that business that they're wanting to get into. So we take that year while they're still in, we line them up in financing, we line them up business plans, we line them up everything that they need to be successful to launch their business. So when they transition, they're able to transition into their new business and run their business. They stay in the program for an additional year. That way we ensure that they get through that first year hurdles and hiccups and all the hard things I've learned running this bar and grill and the other things that I've done. And then at that point, they're going to give back. They're going to give back in one of 3 ways or a combination of. It'll either be 5% ownership of business. So we'll own 5% of their business. And if they ever sell, we get 5% back. If they take any draws, we get 5%, whatever, right? 5% of value at time of sale. So at that 1 year mark, we get a third party evaluation of their business. Say it's $1 million. They pay us 5%, and then they go on, they own their business outright and go do great things. The other is sweat equity. Say for you, if your industry was going into the chicken farming business, we would set you up to be able to do that. But at that point, we would look at you and go, all right, you're now a chicken farming expert. We value that at X number per hour. So now what we're going to do is you're going to spend X number of hours giving back as a mentor into our programs to pay off that 5% debt or any combination of, right? So we continue 2% ownership till you sell. You do 2% cash out right then and 1% sweat equity, right? Doesn't matter to me. The total will be 5%. The intent isn't to break the bank on the business. It's the intent is to keep capital flowing back in. So those small packages I told you about sending out, that's how I plan on feeding and funneling those as one stream of income for that. Right. So now those businesses are providing back into itself to perpetuate the system. The other is the connections with local and small businesses all over the United States that want to be in the programs. Thought is, in the example of barbecue, if you're a barbecue sauce or rub person, you provide sample packs to us either at cost or for free. We then provide a link on our website so that the people that are using the stuff, humans are creatures of habit. They get used to using something. They're going to want to continue using said something. So we're going to put your links directly to buy your stuff on our stuff. So now as they're using it, they can buy more when they run out or when they go through and continue past the program, they can find your product easily and get it processed through. So the thought is that we'll get revenue back to them that way by virtue of that. And that's a way that I'll be able to perpetuate all 10 of the programs based off of that. And the goal is to have mentors come in and do live virtual or in-person mentorship. And really all I ask is the video from it. If they do it like we're doing now or Teams or Zoom or whatever, right. Or if they're doing it live in person, just take your iPad, your phone or whatever, and just record it. I turn it over to smart people that know videography and all that jazz and turn it into quick training videos that we can drop on YouTube, TikTok, or whatever. So anybody can come along and learn a little something about something they may not have ever thought to look up. Right. So that's what Eagle Rising's all about and what I'm doing there with that piece. So, wow. I'll say if you're going to plug any of them, I would love you to plug Racker or Eagle Rising because Eagle Rising is my passion.
Yeah, you can definitely tell that was your. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put, for those of you listening who's like, holy shit, what were the names of all that? I think, dude, that is awesome. I love it. I love the self-perpetuating business. Like you said, you know, it's okay, we gave you a leg up. Now give back to the community. Super cool. Love it. I'm going to find that and I'm going to post the links to, unless you want to shoot them to me.
I'll shoot them to you, make it easy.
Text them to me after the podcast, and then what I'll do is I'll drop those links in the show notes. So down under the bottom in the description that you guys never read, that I tell you idiots to share the podcast. You bitches. But anyway, that's where the links are going to be. Yeah, man. Holy shit, dude. That's a lot. No wonder you're retired. You're like, I got to stay busy, bro.
Oh, I didn't even mention the bounce house business I have, the PNP design that I do. I started PNP design under what I learned doing rack. Mm-hmm. I actually have what I call PNP design because I went to a lady that I trust, and she's like, John, I love the idea. I hate the name.
Yeah.
Like rack doesn't fit to the idea of what you're presenting here. So under PNP design, I take, I work with small businesses, boosters, nonprofits, and even one-offs. And the simple concept is I build an e-commerce store under mine.
Oh, nice.
So they don't do anything other than sit with me for about an hour and give me profit margin they want to make, any items that they want, or any restrictions that they have, or specifics of, I love Fruit of Looms, or I love comfort colors, or whatever, mm-hmm. right? I don't pick any of that because that's not me. I don't want to be responsible for if you find out you don't like it. I don't want that being on me.
Right.
That's on you, right? So getting that information, I build the e-commerce store, have them a running collection usually within the day. And the way that it works is, say you sell $100 in profit that month, I will send you a check for $85. I keep 15% back for me to keep the lights on, pay fees and stuff like that I have to pay for Shopify and whatnot. But it's a way that I say it does three things. It gives people their time back, or excuse me, it saves them money, it makes them money, and my favorite is giving them the time back.
Yeah.
Because for when you talk about booster clubs, right? I was a baseball dad. My son played baseball growing up, and we're always raising money for different tournaments and different shit, right? There's only so many Cokes and Boston Butts that you can sell across a team before you've saturated the community.
Oh, that's right.
Under PNP design, now you can look under there, and two schools side by side are selling similar stuff. It may be t-shirts, but this one's got a custom design to them, and this one has a custom design to them. So now me as a supporter, I don't have to tell one kid no because I just supported another kid. I can actually support both because I can buy two separate items, have it shipped directly to me like I'm on Amazon. So now when you talk about booster clubs and all that, they don't have to go collect money from 30 different parents and then get a big bulk shipment in and then divide it all out and then figure out all the profit back. All that shit's nil now. All they do is send out a QR code to all their parents and say, push it and promote it. Now, if you think about it, every parent's going to want a t-shirt. So that's two for every kid.
Yep.
Usually every grandparent's going to want a t-shirt of some sort or a cup or whatever. So now you're 2 to 4 times on that. So now just for one kid, you can leverage anywhere from 4 to 6 sales like that.
Dude,
if that don't add up quick to you, then we're not talking the right math because when I show this to people, and I've probably got 16 or 18 different organizations under it now that have their own collections. The latest one is Josh White from Josh White's Racing. He actually just had his he's been in and around NASCAR a couple of different times. He's looking to get back into the truck series, but this year in 2026, he's focusing on dirt racing and things like that. But I've got them. I got nonprofits. I've got small businesses, veteran businesses that are underneath it. And I love it because I get to do creative things. But the even better part is I give them an opportunity to make passive income.
Yeah, man.
Which is something they don't have. So
you are the entrepreneur expert. So for those of you who are listening to this, send this guy a message.
If you've made it this far,
if you have made it this far, it's all, the gold's always in the end. Man, dude. Okay. Well, look, man, thanks for coming on. Like
dude, I've enjoyed it. Anytime you want to have me back, I'll bullshit. I got plenty to talk about.
You are a hidden gem of information, man. I mean, it really is. It's impressive. It's impressive. And to think did you go to college at all?
So I'm the guy that took 18 years to get a 4-year degree.
Finally.
I literally worked on my 4-year degree for 18 years. Man. I started when I was an airman and went through AMU for a while. Yeah. Got one class away from having my associates in accounting, and I was getting closer to retirement at that point. And I was like, fuck, I'm not going to finish out my bachelor's in accounting, because that was where I was going. And I was like, I want to have a degree before I finish up. So I was going to switch and just do my associates in accounting and get a bachelor's in business or whatever. Well, AMU was like, oh, well, it'd taken me so long to get to that point that they're like, well, if you do that and you switch your major, even though you covered everything, and it worked out that they were telling me I had to redo over half the classes. Shit. And I told them to go fuck themselves. And I went over to Embry-Riddle.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I ended up getting technical management associates and then a bachelor's in aeronautics.
Hell yeah.
As part of it. But yeah, 18 years to get a 4-year degree, but by God, I got that motherfucker.
It's funny because I did an associate's, and so now I can actually like check the box on higher education, because I used to been like high school and it's like, oh, this fucking retard, like he didn't do it.
Right.
But yeah, man, I appreciate it. God, yeah. I mean, dude, you are, like I said, just a hidden gem of information. But I'm gonna wrap it up there. For those of you who are listening, who made it this far, you got all the gold there at the end, and I'll put these links in the show notes. I really appreciate you coming on, man. Thank you, and I'll see the rest of you guys next week.
Thanks, man. Take care.